Here. Mr. Cantala, please sit for Ms. Kaczynski. Please take notice in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, a special meeting of the Planning Board of the Township of Nutley, Essex County, State of New Jersey will take place on Wednesday, October 29th, 2025 at 7 p.m. for preliminary and final major site plan approval with regard to the proposed construction of a three-story building consisting of approximately 147,076 square feet of research and development facilities, laboratories, fabrication, processing, along with accessory office and warehouse storage space, 293 parking spaces, 2 loading bays, bicycle parking, and additional site improvements, and such other business as may come before the planning board. Please take notice, the planning board may enter into executive session in accordance with NJSA 10-4-12, and please take notice that formal action may be taken by the planning board. Please take further notice, the meeting will be held at the Township of Nutley, 3rd floor, Commission Chambers, 1 Kennedy Drive, Nutley, New Jersey, 07110 at 7 p.m. Thank you. Everybody got emailed some minutes from the last meeting? Everybody get a chance to look at them? Any discussion? I'll hear a motion.
I'll make it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Kazir?
Bills and communications. I have a bill from Ms. Santacieri for her attendance at and preparation of the meeting minutes for October 15, 2025, which we just approved. It's an amount of $150, which I find to be fair and reasonable.
Hear a motion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
I have a second bill for approval. This one's from Panoni Associates. It's with respect to the Franklin Avenue redevelopment. It's in the amount of $2,040. And I've reviewed it, and it is billed pursuant to the rates negotiated with them by the commission, which I find to be fair and reasonable.
Hear a motion?
Move it.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And that's it for bills and communications.
No resolutions to be memorialized. Okay. We have the continuation of the final major site plan approval for the Innovation Center on 438 Kingsland Ave. It's Concher.
Good evening, Merrill Goncher, Souls Cummins and Gross, representing the applicant PB Nightcliff Master LLC. As you've indicated, this is a continued application on our request for a preliminary and final site plan approval. As we've previously discussed and has been recognized, this is a conforming application under the Innovation Center redevelopment plan. And as confirmed by the board's consultants, no variances or waivers are required. It is deviations. It is a as of right application under the redevelopment plan and the ordinances of the township. This evening, as the board is aware, although, and we will have our engineer discuss this, we are going to be discussing storm. I feel like we should be bopping, or I should somehow be speaking in some kind of rap. Our engineer had discussed previously that we were presenting our stormwater under applicable DEP regulations and township ordinances for something called curve under curve. And that although the most recent review by your engineer prior to the one that came out this week identified minor deviations that could be, and we will demonstrate, have been resolved to make them fully compliant under that alternative. In response to the board's request, but not because it is mandated by any regulation or rule, we have revised the plans and have resubmitted them within the time frame requested by the board's engineer to now meet the standards for a peak flow reduction, which Mr. Prokonek will discuss with you. And that accomplishes the detention or infiltration that the board had asked for. I think it had been characterized as asking us to do more than was required. And the current plan does demonstrate that. So we're going to ask Mr. Prokonek to go through what those revisions are, what it looks like, and then we're going to ask him to go through. I know we've all received lots and lots of paper from from the only objector, and we will certainly have Mr. Prokonek go through, in our view, to refute what we believe to be misstatements, misleading information, and just false assertions in the letter. A lot of it is redundant. The same thing has been repeated over and over again in various of those letters. So we will be responding to that. And then finally, we will be demonstrating our ability to comply with more than one of the different means of satisfying DEP. And that will be the final thing that we will ask Rich to deal with this evening. Rich has been qualified as an expert in the field of engineering and sworn. If Barry wants to remind him, he's still under oath, or I will. But I think it would be appropriate to have Mr. Prokonek come forward now. Oh, do you want, except that Mr. Diaz would like to say something in advance, likely to confirm what I've said about why we switched the means of satisfying the DEP requirements. Can you get through?
All right, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Board, and Gene Diaz from Prism Capital Partners, manager of PB Nutcliff Master. I just want to reemphasize what Ms. Goncher had relayed here. This is Prism voluntarily, right? Voluntarily agreeing to do more than what is required under the law by the Department of Environmental Protection with respect to stormwater management. Now, as you will all no doubt agree, when it comes to the On3 campus, Prism has always gone the extra mile in terms of quality of development and smart development, in terms of looking at what has been done to that property and on that property over the last 8 years. I have no doubt that you agree with me that we have always gone the extra mile. In this case, this is Prism once again, electively and voluntarily agreeing to go the extra mile for the peace of mind of the residents of Nutley by providing on-site stormwater detention, as opposed to qualifying under the curve under curve rules, which we clearly do. Now, I am going to say this also, that to the extent that there are objectors who are going to appeal this application in the future, that we are reserving the right to amend this application and come back to this board to requalify under the curve under curve. We see no reason to go spend extra millions of dollars to do this, only to fight about doing this and spending more money for the benefit of the Nutley citizens, right? To do this and be delayed and spend money in litigation on that. So we are voluntarily doing this today to qualify to provide peace of mind. We don't believe that the end result is any particularly different, but I believe it provides peace of mind that we are going the extra mile for detention and on-site stormwater retention for this project. So, I'm going to let Rich testify, but again, this is Prism extending once more than what we're required to do at law. Thank you.
Comment briefly in response to that opening remarks of Mr. Diaz. Mr. Diaz.
Your mouth is like below the edge there. We can't see or hear.
Hiding back here. I just want to comment briefly with respect to what Mr. Diaz just had to say. I heard what you said, but the board is not giving a legal opinion at this time as to whether or not you can actually reopen your application after it decides. We'll leave that up to, the courts if necessary. But we did hear what you said, and I understand your sentiments, but I just don't want you to say the planning board agreed, because they're not. I understand. Thank you.
Rich, if you would, can you advise? Do you need? Oh. Oh, are we going to hurt you? Are you okay?
I'm sure this worked before we go any further. A little tight with this evening.
So, Rich, can you explain to the board what was submitted 2 weeks ago and how it differed from what was before the board previously?
Yeah, absolutely. Do I need to be re-sworn in?
No, you're on the road.
Good to go? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So to answer Ms. Goncher's question, we did make a resubmission a few weeks ago. And the contents of that resubmission were revised site plans. The intent was to address Ms. Raja's comments while also changing our methodology for the stormwater management on site. We submitted a stormwater management report and a response letter that itemized the individual changes in response to Ms. Raja's letter.
And following previous practice, Barry, if it was submitted, anything that was previously submitted to the board would not be marked as further exhibits, but we have pre-marked one additional document as A9.
Yeah, that's
And
correct.
you could identify that when you're ready. Tell the board what it is that's been so marked.
So there's 2 sheets to A9. What we're looking at now is the first sheet. It's entitled Site Plan Exhibit, dated 10/27/25. It is in essence the same exhibit that was initially submitted, but updated with some minor site changes that correspond, with Ms. Dipty's letter in our response to that. So I'm sure everyone's familiar with the site. I don't think I need to belabor the orienting the board and the public, but this was the more zoomed out version that I previously testified to. However, it's been updated to match the current site plans. The second sheet of A9 similarly is a more zoomed in version of this rendered site plan with landscaping. And I would like to just walk the board through a couple of the more substantial changes that may jump out. You'll notice I have a blue arrow. It's not part of the exhibit. It's just a point for clarity. So as part of the flood hazard process, we did visit the site, and there is a feature that's considered to be regulated. What that means is there is a buffer associated with that, referred to as a riparian zone. So in order to be compliant with the DEP requirements, we did shift this drive aisle a little bit further into the site and needed to make some minor adjustments to the landscaped islands along the west side to maintain some of the parking. So under this new configuration, where 212 parking spaces are required, 293 were previously provided, and under this new layout, there are 285. This has been updated to reflect the correct number of ADA parking spaces, where previously we identified 6. We now identify 7 to be compliant with the ADA standards. Some other changes on this is, as I mentioned, the existing ditch. There's additional information. That's the regulated feature along the railroad. We added the sanitary sewer easement to the plan. There was a saw cut line added along Kingsland at the request of Ms. Raja. We did lower portions of the driveway, the elevations of the driveway, so that we would not be filling within the floodplain to be compliant with the DEP standards. We updated a side yard, side yard setback to be 40 feet as opposed to 30. It was a graphical error. The building didn't change. We still remain compliant. And the largest change, although maybe not certainly visible to the board, but the largest change on the plan was the conversion of the curve under curve to the peak flow reduction. What the peak flow reduction method means is we now have an underground system, concrete vaults that will detain water, infiltrate some elements, some quantity, and then discharge the rest back to that initial point of analysis nearest to Kingsland. As part of
Repeat that again, please. Starting from detention.
So the detention system, it's technically by definition referred to as an infiltration system. They are concrete vaults underground. The manufacturer we are anticipating using is called Storm Trap, in which it will collect the stormwater, hold the stormwater in these vaults, and then slowly release them through infiltration or through an outlet control structure, which is then a pipe that goes to that same discharge point nearest Kingsland Street.
So to clarify, it's a big tank that will hold the water, and some of it will infiltrate into the ground, and some will be at a slower rate piped into the existing stormwater system?
I would refer to it as a vault, but yeah, it functions the same as a tank. Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Of course.
Part of my, I'm not an engineer. Okay.
No, understood. I've been with towns who actually want tanks and the vaults they don't like, but we're proposing an actual vault. It's holding the water. So in a nutshell, that is the changes we have made to the plans. These plans have been submitted to the township, reviewed by Ms. Raja. We did receive a review letter. There are a few additional comments that need to be addressed, and on the record, we will comply with all of Ms. Raja's comments.
Rich, when you say comply with Ms. Rogers' report, you mean the one dated the 27th?
Correct.
Okay.
So as Ms. Gonchar indicated, we do have a couple of points we would like to put on the record in response to the objecting engineer's letter. So if you'll bear with me, there's a couple of points I would like to address.
Before you do that,
Sure.
I want to see if anybody on the board has any questions about what the new system's going to be, so we don't mix up the subjects.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
Oh, that's what you want to say? Okay.
I just want to say something too.
From, Van Cleef's letters.
Can you just call out what comment you're going to reference so I can follow through what you're
Sure.
saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Any questions regarding the detention system?
I just wanted to say as well, thank you, because we expressed a concern and it was addressed, and that's appreciated.
Jerry?
Could you elaborate? So prior, you used the curve under curve analysis approach, and that met guidelines and standards. Now you changed your approach to peak flow reduction. Could you just explain what that means?
Yeah, I actually have a little bit of a closing presentation in PowerPoint to go into deeper.
I'm your segue guy.
We do have an intermediate step we want to take before that, but essentially, and I'll get into a more detailed presentation, hopefully in about 10 minutes, is that the curve under curve approach is basically analyzing the pre-development hydrograph relative to the post-development hydrograph. And what that does is it limits us so that we can't discharge any more volume of water in a faster rate than exists pre-development. And that is typically common on sites that are redevelopment in which we are reducing impervious. Now, when we look at the peak flow reduction, it's more commonly used when there is additional impervious being added to the site. Now, there's always exceptions, but just speaking in generalities. And what we do is through the inlets, we collect the water the same way as we did previously, but instead of just discharging it, we are now putting it in an underground tank that holds onto the water and then slowly releases it based on the peak discharges for 6 specific design storms. The 2, 10, 100-year storm events for the present and the future storms.
Got it. Wonderful. That's it?
That's it.
Chair, okay, so I have a couple of quick questions. The basin, how many gallons will it hold?
Gallons?
Yeah.
I don't have gallons. I have acre feet. Oh,
I'm sorry, yeah, what?
acre feet.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say liters, but that's okay.
Anything but imperial, anything but metric, right? So our volume that we're going to detain is approximately 1.146 acre feet. So what acre feet is it's exactly as it sounds. An acre is 43,560 square feet. A foot is 1 foot. So over an acre, we would be maintaining 1.1 feet of water over the entirety of an acre.
Okay, I understand.
And I can convert that to whatever you like.
Okay, no, I understand. It's a lot of water.
It is. It's a substantial amount.
And one other question.
Sure.
So some of the water is going to infiltrate into the ground. Some of it's going to be released at a slower rate than it normally would if the basin wasn't there. Can you give me an idea of what the difference in the time frame would be from if you didn't have the basin, how fast would the water leave the property compared to how fast it leaves when the basin is there? Is it saving a minute? Is it saving 10 hours? How much the difference in time?
We're not able to give that exact number until we do the NJDEP required the geotechnical testing of the soil in that exact area. There's very strict requirements. We did submit a geotechnical report, but that wasn't for the infiltration and the seasonal high groundwater establishment. So I can't give you an exact time frame, but I can say that this system needs to drain within 36 hours to be compliant.
It has to take 36 hours to empty the basin.
No longer than.
Okay.
32.
I'm sure you've done something like this before.
Yeah.
Have you done other basins similar size?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you remember what the difference in the time frame was on the other projects?
It's completely independent of the site. I mean, we're talking something where it would have left the site within minutes, and now it's hours to days.
Okay.
So it's significantly holding it back and slowly releasing it.
Okay, thank you.
Was that all the questions? Okay.
I wonder if Judy would do this.
Oh, I don't know.
She's got her own company.
Okay, so there have been several objection letters issued by Van Cleef's office, many of which do have a recurring theme. So we'd prefer not to go through each individual item, but did want to touch on some of those larger consistent themes throughout the series of the letters. So the best letter I can refer to is the September 3rd, 2025 letter. And I will work through some of the larger comments. I'll provide the comment number if there is one and the page of the report that it starts on. So there was an unnumbered comment on page 3 of 6. Van Cleef.
And they go off and they make noises.
The comment is Prism fails to provide data and information that accurately quantifies, analyzes, or mitigates the increase in stormwater runoff from the Innovation Center that is required for the board to assess stormwater plan design and adequacy. All of On3's past approvals were prepared and approved by the appropriate regulatory agencies under the guidance and approval of licensed professionals to the standards applicable at the time of the approval. The objector's engineer's statements are not the dispassionate technical and science-based analysis one would expect from an engineer, but a compilation of unsubstantiated characterizations and editorial comments without factual basis or sound engineering practices. The allegedly flawed patterns described by the objector's engineer related to the On3 applications are actually properly granted approvals supported by all of the submitting engineers and endorsed by Nutley's board engineers, Clifton's board engineers, and the NJDEP.
Get them out of bed, you know.
Moving on to comment 1 on page 3, Mr. Vooch asserts that the applicant fails to comply with Prism's regulatory and statutory obligations to analyze the entire 119 acres on3 redevelopment as a comprehensive major development under common plan of development for stormwater management and planning purposes. Mr. Vooch misrepresents the stormwater management rules in relations to the requirements and definitions of a major development. There are no requirements in the stormwater management plan, stormwater management rules to analyze multiple major developments as a common plan of development, part of a single analysis. The definition of a major development only requires an applicant to look at the cumulative disturbance of the development to determine if the project is a major development and therefore subject to the requirements set forth in the stormwater management rules for major developments. As described previously in the submitted documents and testimony, there is no dispute that the pending project is a major development and is subject to the requirements of stormwater management rules. Mr. Vooch is providing a tortuous interpretation of the rules when the analysis is only a threshold determination to protect against avoidance of the classification as a major development. The submitted plans and reports demonstrate that the Innovation Center project meets the requirements of those stormwater management rules. Regardless, the other projects within the On3 campus were separate projects with separate analysis and designs, not one common plan of development. Comment 2 on the 3rd page. Mr. Vooch incorrectly alleges that the applicant fails to include accurate hydraulic and hydrologic studies in anticipated stormwater runoff from downstream impacts of its proposed development by direct discharge from a free flow conveyance system into one of the 3 outflows located within the stream channel of Springer Brook, also known as St. Paul's Branch, a tributary to the Third River. The plans and report demonstrate that the flow generated by the proposed project is less than the stormwater flows generated by existing conditions at the existing site by decreasing the existing impervious area by approximately 20%. Existing impervious was 7.14 acres, proposed impervious 5.5 acres. And although not required, we are now providing an underground infiltration basin. Comment 3, Mr. Vooch incorrectly alleges that the applicant fails to implement any structural stormwater mitigation, i.e. a detention system to mitigate and address the undeniable increase in stormwater quantity, NJAC 7:8-5.6, and decreases stormwater quality, NJAC 7.8-5.5, that will already occurred from its massive redevelopment project. Mr. Vooch's statement, full of hyperbole, inaccurate, and substantiated by technical analysis based on sound engineering practices and applicable of the regulations. It is not substantiated, I apologize. The stormwater management report demonstrates that based on a decrease of impervious area, the proposed site from existing conditions, the proposed stormwater discharges to Springer Brook from the innovation site and will decrease under proposed conditions. Additionally, the stormwater quality of the site will also improve based on the decrease of motor surface vehicle area. Allegations to the contrary are not based on facts or sound engineering principles. I'm going to grab a drink of water really quick. Okay. Comment 1 on page 6. Mr. Vooch alleges that the report misrepresents and fails to account for the fact that the majority of the proposed innovation center is is delineated within an NJDEP regulated flood hazard area. The submitted site plans represent the flood hazard areas as interpreted from the existing FEMA mapping. Additionally, as previously discussed and testified to during the site plan approval process, the applicant is required to obtain a flood hazard area permit, FHA for shorthand, from the DEP. The project needs to meet the requirements for the FHA permits. Sure.
Not yet. We are in the process. I think I would learn. Sorry. That is in process. The application is being, and we have committed, obviously, that will be provided to the board, to the engineer when that is submitted.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Go ahead. The next comment from Mr. Voigt.
Comment 2 on page. Mr. Vuch, apologize. Everyone pronounces my last name incorrectly, but I'm sorry, Vuch, sorry. Mr. Vuch incorrectly alleges the report relies on inaccurate soil types, soil conditions, pervious surfaces, and curve numbers, which erroneously underestimate the stormwater impact of the proposed innovation center. The applicant has not relied on inaccurate soil types or underestimated any impacts. All soil testing performed by the applicant to identify the hydraulic soil group, HSG for short, of soils present on site was performed per Chapter 12 soil testing criteria of the New Jersey Stormwater Best Management Practice Manual, BMP Manual for short. Under no circumstance, under no circumstance would the proposed stormwater discharges increase from the existing conditions based on any changes to the HSG classification. The HSG is one of the factors used to calculate the stormwater discharges. Generally, or the purpose of these calculations, the HSG describes how quickly water can infiltrate into the soil or produce runoff. There are no proposed changes to the underlying soil types between existing and proposed conditions. Additionally, the HSG has no impact on flows calculated from impervious surfaces, which make up the majority of the site. Comment 3 on page 27, Mr. Vuich incorrectly alleges that Prism's report fails to assess multiple drainage areas at the proposed innovation center and fails to account for stormwater discharging into Springer Brook, also known as St. Paul's Branch, in violation of the stormwater management rules. The stormwater management report was prepared to accurately demonstrate that the discharges from the project site to the existing adjacent drainage system meet the requirements of the Township of Nutley and the New Jersey Stormwater Management Regulations. The project proposes no improvements to the existing areas that are tributary to the common drainage system and Springer Brook that would require their inclusion in the analysis for the project site. The stormwater management will further be reviewed by the NJDEP during the flood hazard area review process. Comment 6 on page 33. Mr. Vuich incorrectly alleges that Prism stormwater drainage system and piping capacity analysis are inconsistent with the BMP manual and the stormwater management regulations and result in underestimation of the stormwater runoff impacts from the innovation center. The analysis of the stormwater conveyance system was performed consistent with the methodology described in the New Jersey BMP manual and has been reviewed by the engineer and is subject to the NJDEP review as part of that FHA permitting process. There's an unnumbered comment on page 36. Mr. Vuich incorrectly alleges that Prism's site plan application fails to assess stormwater quantity impacts of the entire On3 redevelopment as required by Nutley's municipal code and NJDEP stormwater management rules. The objector has fabricated a requirement to prepare a stormwater analysis for the entirety of the On3 redevelopment. As already noted in the record, Nutley Lumber has previously asserted this argument before the Clifton Planning Board and was rejected. No engineering firm involved with any application before the Clifton or Nutley boards has agreed with Mr. Vuoch's erroneous theory. There is no requirement to prepare a stormwater analysis for the entire On3 project, quote, common plan of development, unquote. There are misinterpreting the rules per Township of Nutley Ordinance, Chapter 622. A major development is defined as an individual development, as well as multiple developments that individually or collectively result in 1. The disturbance of 1 acre or 1 or more acres of land since February 2nd, 2004. 2, the creation of 1/4 acre or more of regulated impervious surface since February 2nd, 2004. 3, the creation of 1/4 acre or more of regulated motor vehicle surface since March 2nd, 2021. Or 4, a combination of 2 and 3 that totals an area of 1/4 acre or more. The same surface shall not be counted twice when determining if the combination area equals 1/4 acre or more. Part B of that section states a major development includes all developments that are part of a common plan of development for sale. For example, phased residential development that collectively or individually meet any one or more of subsection A1, A2, A3, or A4. Projects undertaken by any government agency that would otherwise meet the definition of a major development, which do not require approval under the MLUL NJSA 40-55D/1, are also considered a major development. The inclusion of the common plan of development is only meant to determine if the project is considered a major development and intended to eliminate the ability of developers from breaking one project into phases to remain under that threshold of a major development and avoid the requirements of the stormwater management rules. This project is not related to other On3 projects and, more importantly, is considered a major development on its own. Therefore, the project is not part of a common plan of development with any other projects. There is no authority for Mr. Vuoch's distortion of clear, important import of this regulation. There's another unnumbered comment on page 46. Mr. Vuoch incorrectly asserts that Prism site plans application fails to assess stormwater quality impacts of the entire On3 redevelopment as required by Nutley's municipal and NJDEP stormwater management rules. The project addresses the stormwater quality requirements per the NJDEP stormwater management rules in the Township of Nutley. Water quality measures are only required where regulated motor vehicle surface area exists. Per the definition of the rules and ordinance copied, regulated motor vehicle surface is where there is a net increase of motor vehicle surface area. Mr. Vuoch fabricates a regulation that a parking lot needs to have been active within the last 5 years to count as an existing motor surface vehicle area. By definition, motor vehicle surface area is any surface area that is intended to be used by motor vehicles without mention of timing. For the definition below, I'm going to quote in a minute, the existing parking area is clearly a motor vehicle surface area. Because there is a net decrease in motor vehicle surface areas associated with this project, there are no regulated motor vehicle surface areas pursuant to the actual regulation and therefore no requirement for water quality. The definition of a motor vehicle surface: any pervious or impervious surface that is intended to be used by motor vehicles and/or aircraft and is directly exposed to precipitation, including but not limited to driveways, parking areas, parking garages, roads, racetracks, and runways. Regulated motor vehicle surface, by definition, is any of the following, alone or in combination: the total area of motor vehicle surface that is currently receiving water, or a net increase in motor vehicle surface and/or water quality treatment either by vegetation or soil, by an existing stormwater management measure, or by treatment at a wastewater treatment plant, where the water quality treatment will be modified or removed. All right. Moving on. There's an additional unnumbered comment on page 54 of 63. Mr. Voigt incorrectly asserts that Prism has failed to account for the influence of contaminated groundwater on its proposed building foundations, loading docks, and pavement circulation areas, as well as for its proposed stormwater conveyance network. The objector's engineer references previously prepared studies to make statements about the proposed project. Based on investigations performed for this project, groundwater is not anticipated to impact the development of the site, including building foundations, loading docks, pavement circulation areas, and the stormwater management system. Design around the groundwater table once it is identified during the required BMP testing. Our design relies on the best information available, including geotechnical testing performed by our office, which has been submitted to the board for their review. Those results are based on direct physical observation and measurements, as opposed to making assumptions based on fabricated information. With respect to the discussion of inflow and infiltration of groundwater, it remains the case that water will not infiltrate into the groundwater piping system, into the building, or into the loading dock area. All stormwater pipes will remain properly sealed, and the building will be fully protected in accordance with standard engineering and architectural practices. And that's everything I have from that specific letter. Want to keep going through the 12? They are very much redundant. Okay. There are several other comments in the same generalized vein as the comments I did just recite to the board in the September 12th, 2025 objection letter prepared by Mr. Voigt. There's an unnumbered comment on page 8 that states Prism September 8th, 2025 supplemental submission fails to account for the address, the influence and contaminate groundwater on the design, and therefore the board must deny the preliminary site plan approval. I did just provide reasoning for that. An additional unnumbered comment on page 19, Collier's September 8th, 2025 responses to Pannoni's September 2nd, 2025 engineering letter number 2 are insufficient and in violation of applicable stormwater regulations, and therefore the stormwater approval must be denied. The comments I offered a few moments ago do address that as well. Yeah.
Going back to this question or these comments that had been raised, and I think they're raised in multiple of the letters, is that correct?
That is correct.
With regard to these allegations about the effect of potential contaminated water getting into the system. You had mentioned that the piping will be sealed. Do you know what kind of piping is going to be used, and is the design to preclude infiltration of water into the pipes?
Yeah, we are proposing HDPE, and it will be a watertight seal to prevent any inflow or infiltration from the ground into the pipe.
All right. And based on your review of what's proposed, will the building foundation have appropriate waterproofing and construction elements that will also preclude any water from infiltrating, whether or not there's any foundation or basis for asserting that contaminated water might get into this?
That is correct.
Okay. And similarly, with regard to the paving and the construction details for the loading dock, is the design, as you've reviewed it, such that it will not allow for upwelling of groundwater? Again, regardless of whether it's there's any basis to assert that that water might be contaminated?
That's correct.
Okay. What else? Rich, you mentioned that with regard to the groundwater elevations, that additional testing will be done, but your design and your conclusions and testimony, you indicated, are based on recent physical observations. Can you explain a little more what those are based on? And there have been assertions made with regard to elevations that are based on existing wells as opposed to current observation by the objector. So can you describe that distinction?
Yeah, so the testing that was performed was for the hydraulic reclassification of the soil. In order to do so, an excavator is utilized to dig a test pit, a hole into the existing ground, and then a geotechnical specialist will evaluate that soil profile, including the types of soil, look for evidence of seasonal high groundwater, whether it be redoxification or modeling, or actual seepage of water into the pit. There was some observation in a couple of the test pits, which were deemed to be a perched condition. A perched condition essentially is there is a more impermeable layer of soil that's preventing water from infiltrating down and through it, so the water gets hung up on that clay or the silt. That was observed, but based on the characteristics of the site and the characteristics of the other test pits performed, it was the geotechnical engineer's interpretation that that was a perch condition and not consistent with the rest of the site. Oh, and then in terms of the monitoring well, I apologize. So we based our engineering calculations on the most accurate and best information available to us. We physically visited the site. We physically dug a hole. We physically investigated the soil profiles. We understand that as part of some of the remediation efforts, there are monitoring wells on site. And those monitoring wells do have standing water in them, but it is not consistent with the rest of the site. We don't understand or know how they've been maintained, or if the water within those monitoring wells is actually a seasonal high groundwater table. Perhaps some sedimentation fell in, clogged up the pipe, and there is some water sitting a little bit higher. Now, what's important for the board to understand is we haven't done the proper testing to verify with the DEP and to their standards where the seasonal high groundwater exactly is. We know we haven't encountered it yet, and we haven't done the testing for the infiltration associated with the infiltration basin. That typically occurs in the wet season starting in January. There will be a representative from the township on site to observe, should they so choose to be on site. And then with that information, any minor modifications to the system will be done at that time within the wet season, within the appropriate testing as outlined by the NJDEP. And it's common practice that this does occur post planning board approval. There's many times throughout this process, which we're all very intimately familiar with, where comments from the board engineer or from the board dictates a change in the basin design. So we need to make sure that we have the highest level of confidence that the basin location and the size is acceptable to everyone, and then subsequently confirmed by that testing.
And are you confident that even if there's a minor adjustment required in terms of, because the results of the testing with regard to the groundwater are slightly different than you're anticipating, that adjustments can be made in order to modify the system that's been proposed that will still accomplish the same thing and meet the DEP standards?
Yes, and just to further advance that statement, Merrill, the hydrologic soil classification that we had to perform, the bottom of those pits in the approximate location of the infiltration basin did go beyond the bottom of the basin. So we did do some testing in those areas, and we did not identify the seasonal high groundwater table at that location. Now, we do need to go back out there to be compliant with the DEP requirements. There's very specific infiltration testing requirements at what depth we need to do them at, and also the number of those test pits based on the size of the basin.
All right. So again, based upon the actual observation, you're confident that the results will support the design as you've proposed it, or if not, you have the ability to modify that.
Yeah, the modifications I would consider to be relatively minor, if there are any at all.
All right. I think that on the that issue, we may come back to some of these comments. Is it safe to say that of all of these comments, or let's call them criticisms, presented by Van Cleef on behalf of Nutley Lumber, are there any that you felt accurately depicted either the conditions on site or accurately reflected in your judgment what the circumstances are and the ability to meet the DEP standards?
No, not specifically.
Okay. And I'll just ask you, we've spoken about, this seems to be an overriding comment through the letters. Are you had addressed the issue that the issue of what constitutes a major development. I think you characterized it, or the comments did, that it is a threshold evaluation, meaning that the objective there is to determine whether an application is a major development or not. And if it is a major development, then there's an obligation to meet the standards of the DEP regulations for stormwater, correct?
That's correct. There is the three thresholds: the disturbance being an acre, motor surface vehicle area increase of a quarter acre, impervious coverage in general, a quarter acre, or a combination of motor surface vehicle and impervious coverage of an acre. We are well in excess of an acre of disturbance. We're a major development.
All right. So are you aware of any, I think we'd gone through this once before. Are you aware, or have you ever come across a circumstance where there is any regulation or interpretation that requires, mega major application once the application is determined to be a major development, that there's some obligation to continue trying to characterize it as a bigger major application?
The major development is the largest and most restrictive type of development in terms of stormwater based on the regulations. You either are a major or you are not. There are no additional levels or layers of major development other than what I've described here tonight.
So, since we are not debating whether or not we are a major, that should dispose of that issue, correct?
Correct, we are a major. We've never pretended to be anything but a major.
And therefore, we have acknowledged that we have an obligation to meet the stormwater management regulations and rules of the DEP. And is it your testimony that we do or will?
And the Township of Nutley, and yes to both. We comply with both sets of standards.
Thank you. All right. Now, do you want to, let's move on, subject to if we need to come back to this, to discuss, we had previously presented our intent to comply with those regulations using the curve under curves methodology, which, because we are, I believe your testimony is reducing impervious coverage, relieve the application of any obligation to provide any kind of detention or infiltration, correct?
Correct.
All right. And we had presented a stormwater report under that methodology. And I believe at one point there was one point in time under one of the storms that you modeled where we exceeded the curve. Do you want to go through whether we also meet that curve under curve methodology and could also satisfy the DEP regulations following that methodology?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we submitted the report, we are required to comply that the existing hydrograph, the proposed hydrograph fits wholly within the existing. There was what equates to a minor error in our calculations that we were with relative ease able to adjust. So when we did submit the plans, there was one time interval that did exceed the hydrograph, but we were able to correct that to maintain compliancy with that threshold. So I do want to just walk the board through a small presentation I have. I promise it won't be more than 10 minutes. So as Mr. Diaz had indicated on his opening remarks, we would like to preserve the viability of the curve under curve approach. I just wanted to clarify a few key points and maybe help the board better understand what that methodology actually means. The objector previously claimed that we were not able to meet the NJDEP curve under curve standard. And
Something up on the on board. Do you want to introduce that? I don't.
After my opening statement, I'll do that as soon as I finish my sentence. Sorry, I did forget though, but thank you. Even though, sorry, so the objector claimed that we were not able to comply with the NJDEP curve under curve standard and therefore had an obligation to design using peak flow reduction. We believe that is an inaccurate statement. Even though we have now presented the project under the peak flow reduction approach, in reality, the original design continues to meet the curve under curve compliance. We are reducing impervious coverage consistent with the standards, which is a statement of fact and should not be up for discussion. And the board engineers, Ms. Raja, has agreed with us in that assessment of reduction of impervious. Our willingness to use the peak flow approach was not because we are required to, but because we agreed to do so at the request of the township's professionals, the board, and the feedback from the public. Therefore, there was an acknowledgement that we had no such obligation, but there were multiple requests to go further. And this change from the curve under curve from the previous plans to the peak flow reductions presented tonight is an effort to do more. So I do have a small PowerPoint presentation. I apologize, it was not pre-marked. Is it okay if we mark this as A10, Mr. Kazera?
I'm old. How many slides are in this PowerPoint presentation?
It's only 10.
Thank you. So they'll all be marked as A10 if that's okay. And that was, I see it's prepared. It has today's date on it. Is that?
It's today's date.
And it was prepared under your supervision?
Absolutely was.
Okay, thank you.
So it's entitled One Molecular Way, Stormwater Compliance. PB Nutcliffe Master dated October 29th as prepared by my firm, Colliers Engineering and Design, under my direct supervision. So I think it's important that we take a second to understand the terminology and the definitions that we have been tossing around now for the fifth hearing in front of the board. So the curve under curve is not a NJDEP term. It's just something that's commonly used for simplicity. It's a little easier to follow as it's very true to the words within the title. So the NJDEP definition is on there, but in plain language, post-construction hydrograph for the 2, the 10, and the 100 current and future storm events do not exceed the pre-construction hydrograph. Runoff timing control for the hydrograph management. Again, we have the DEP definition on the screen, but in plain language, it's so that we demonstrate that the design will not increase downstream flooding by maintaining or delaying the timing of runoff peaks. Peak flow reduction. I'd like to now touch on this, which is now the methodology that we presented tonight. It's the post-construction peak runoff rates for the current and future 2, 10, and 100-year storms will be reduced to 50%, 75%, and 85% respectively of the existing conditions. I'm sorry, 80. That's 80. Sorry. 50, 75, and 80. That is one methodology. And that's the one we were moving forward with. So, and that's the one we are utilizing with the new storm event tonight. Time of concentration. It's the time of concentration is the time required for runoff, stormwater runoff from the sky, to travel from the hydraulically most distant point in a drainage area to the point of interest within a watershed. So that point of interest is where our analysis takes place. Our IT really wants this update tonight. Hydrograph has probably been the most utilized word over these last few meetings. In stormwater runoff analysis, a hydrograph is a graph showing the flow rate of runoff versus time. The area under the hydrograph represents the total runoff volume for the storm event. It is a volumetric flow rate. And as previously mentioned several times previously tonight, major development definition: 1 acre of disturbance, 1 acre or more of regulated impervious surface, 1 quarter acre or more regulated impervious, 1/4 acre or more of regulated motor surface vehicle area. Hydraulic soil groups. A lot of time tonight spent on that. There's 4 groups: A, B, C, and D. And there's really, it's pretty much associated with the permeability and infiltration of that soil. So a hydraulic soil group A would infiltrate much faster than a D. So if we think at maybe the beach, sand, that would be an A. We start thinking about mucky soils, that's a D, that's clay. It doesn't want to infiltrate down. Land cover, generally speaking, refers to the types and densities of vegetation, types of development, percentages of impervious surface, like roads, rooftops, parking lots, and those factors are used to determine the curve number, which predicts runoff potential with the land cover. Now, the curve under curve approach. So what is on the screen is you'll see it looks like blue and a green areas over a graph, I'm sorry. So on the left, this is the flow rate here, and on the bottom, it's the time. So the higher up this chart it goes, the more volume of water, and the further to the right it goes, the more time it takes. So when we evaluate the curve under curve, and I make these statements that the post-construction hydrograph needs to stay wholly underneath the pre-construction hydrograph, this is what I'm referring to. That when we do that analysis that takes into account the curve number, the hydraulic soil classification, the time of concentration, and all these other terms we've been throwing around for the last couple of months, calculates out and generates a hydrograph. So as long as under the curve under curve approach, that post-construction hydrograph, didn't mean to move that, stays underneath the pre-construction hydrograph, it is a benefit. It is less water in less time. So how did we do this for our site? We took the existing conditions, and you'll notice we have an image clip of our existing conditions, the survey, what exists today. And on the right, we have the aerial just for context. So impervious coverage, we have 7.14 acres, and that's pavement, that's the gravel, that's anything that water really doesn't want to infiltrate through. So we start with 7.14 acres of impervious, and we have a calculated time of concentration of 5.4 minutes. Now, on the flip side, we have to look at not just the impervious, but also the pervious, the landscaping, the grass, anything that's particularly native and allows water to infiltrate down. We were able to classify those soil types with the hydraulic soil groups B, C, and D throughout the site, respectively. And we calculated a time of concentration of 15.2 minutes. It's important to understand we do this independently because it was actually a comment, I believe, in Ms. Raja's letter where we didn't present it as such, but we analyzed the impervious, we analyzed the impervious, and then we combined them in the modeling program. And we did the exact same thing for the proposed conditions. So again, on the left, you'll see, I believe that's our drainage plan, our grading plan. And on the right, you'll see the render. The previous render, it doesn't have the updates with the little jog in the entrance road. So what's really important here is the impervious is now 5.59 acres instead of the 7.14, a reduction in impervious coverage. So that reduction in impervious, flip side of the coin, equates to an increase in pervious. That's the type of land cover, grass, vegetation, that allows water to infiltrate. Now, not all of it infiltrates, some does run off, but it does allow it to infiltrate, whereas the impervious, no to minimal runoff or infiltration occurs. So, based on our design, how does this translate? And this is our hydrograph comparison. We used a 2-year current just for argument's sake, no particular reason. We would need to generate one of these hydrographs for all 6 storms that is reviewed by Ms. Raja and the NJDEP and any other entity having jurisdiction over the stormwater design. And this is what it looks like. Now, it can be a little tough to see. And there are many, many time intervals, 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute, however we're required to do it. And we further substantiate these calculations by providing a very long list of those time intervals, 0.01 minutes, 0.02 minutes, 0.03 minutes for the pre and post to demonstrate through analytical data, not just a graph, that we are compliant.
This is not a time for questions. No, not in time. You'll have your time.
Just as a brief summary, the existing impervious 7.14, proposed impervious 5.59, net reduction of 1.55 acres. And then we check the boxes for those 6 storm events, the current and future 2, current and future 10, current and future 100. And that is my probably a little bit longer than 10-minute presentation.
So, Rich, by way of your conclusion then is that you have run the analysis for each of the storms?
Correct.
Pre and post?
Correct.
And is it your testimony that they all meet the standard of the post-development being under the hydrograph or within the hydrograph for the pre?
Correct.
Okay. And that will be presented if we pursue that, but it's your testimony that we
Further
do.
presented because we did provide some testimony and there were some minor errors. And what was presented tonight would have been a correction of those errors.
Okay. But that is not the methodology that we are proposing at this time, but a clarification and subject to the reservation of rights or the reservation that Mr. Diaz presented, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Subject to our right to recall, depending on what else is put in, that would be our direct on this issue.
I'll open up to questions from the board. Mr. Cantella? Frank? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Smith? Ms. Mufcheski?
No, just to reiterate, the understanding is that what you went over was the first plan and some of the corrections in that first plan, but as Mr. Diaz indicated, that we're going to go with the vaults.
Correct. We didn't want to leave it open-ended. We wanted to present to the board that there was a methodology, curve under curve, that could work, but it is the testimony tonight that it is the peak flow reductions, which would be those underground vaults and detention, correct?
Understood. Thank you.
Vaults.
Ms. Tangor? Ms. Tangor? Commissioner? Mr. Del Tufo?
Just one regarding your groundwater and your proposed stormwater detention design. In the Van Cleef's letter, they indicated that because of the elevation of the groundwater, that your proposed design won't be as effective as you'd like because it'll be full of water the majority of the time due to the elevation of the groundwater. And before you said that, you haven't completely determined the final the elevation of the groundwater. You typically do that after planning board, and then you'll make final adjustments accordingly. Could you just discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, exactly as you stated. But one key piece of information is that we did do the hydraulic soil reclassification, which has some similarities to the infiltration testing. Both are, test pits dug with an excavator or a backhoe, observation and documentation of the soil profiles. It's just a physical testing of the soil is done slightly differently and in different elevations. But the observation during the hydraulic soil testing indicated no seasonal high groundwater table. So obviously, if we go deep enough, we'll probably hit it. It might be 50 feet, it might be 100 feet, it might be 10 feet. We'll work through that under the direct guidance of the NJBMP manual for stormwater testing criteria.
Thanks.
Jerry Dunn? Mr. Mofstano?
Yes, Rich, I wish you would have done your presentation before you went into the answer to Mr. Van Cleef's, because you explained it very well.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? It made it very simple. You don't happen to have your site plan on your screen available, do you? Because I'm going to reference some questions, but I'm just going to reference from memory of the site plan. If you have it, it's great. If not, and it would be the latest, I guess.
If this was what was submitted to the board, and as previously stated, I don't believe we need to mark this, but I will read it into the record. Preliminary and final major site plan for Prism Capital Partners, Block 200, lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 24. Block 102, Township of Nutley, Essex County, New Jersey, with the revision date of... Sorry, it's not cooperating. October 15th, 2025.
That's the latest set was given out?
Correct.
So the storm trap that you show on your plan, it's outlined on the site plan, and it has some dimensions for it on a detail. Why did you come up with that dimension, that size? Was it because it fit in the area, or was that used or that was determined by the amount of water that was needed to be captured? How did you come up with that 200 by 90 dimension and depth?
It's exactly as you described it. There's several factors that goes into it, and it essentially equates to how much volume of water do we need to hold.
Right. And going back to what the chairman was saying, how much volume does it hold? And that's why I asked those dimensions. I'm not a mathematician, but you can calculate and do all the, how many gallons in a cubic foot of area and all that. You'll come up with something, I'm assuming, right? So do you happen to remember what that gallons that it's, without going too deep into approximately?
It's already calculated, so we should double check it. It's 1.14, or it is 373,000 gallons, plus or minus.
It's a big number. Right?
Yeah.
I did my own math, but I didn't want to put that number on it. It's a big number. Yes. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So it's an impressive number to say this.
Yeah, I think it's impressive.
The storm trap, it's all concrete. All sides of it's concrete.
The bottom is not.
It's not. So
it was for infiltration. And just for the record, there is rebar in it for structural integrity. But yeah, it's a concrete.
No, but it's precast. You're setting these things. But the bottom is stone, and is it? I guess looking at the size of it, the depth, it's just above that clay layer. It looks to me that water's not coming up from underneath.
Yeah, and the geotechnical investigation will provide the clarity we need to finish and complete that design.
Yeah, I remember some testimony about the depths of those test pits. They were somewhere between 6 feet at the very bottom. So this sort of fits inside that.
Yeah, but again, we are not compliant with the DEP testing or stormwater basins.
Correct.
But we will be once the wet season arrives.
So on your plan, you showed it in an area, like a rectangle area. So it's under parking lot, under pavement?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's HS-20 loading. I mean, you can land an aircraft on these things. Yeah.
There were some other structures on the plan. I couldn't make out what they were, but they had a dimension of looked like 8 feet by 40 or 8 by 10. What were those? They were adjacent to the curb islands. I didn't find a detail back of the plan.
Talking about these guys over here?
Yes. Yeah, it looks about right.
Those are filterras. Filterras is what they're called.
Okay.
And before we're able to put the stormwater into the basin, we're required to pre-treat it.
Yeah.
So that the TSS, the total suspended solids, are removed, 80% removed from the water before going into the basin. This way there's no sediment, or limits the sedimentation buildup at the bottom.
So that's the surface water off the pavement before it goes into the inlet and then goes into your storm trap.
Correct.
I did notice a trash rack. There's no above basin on the site, right?
No, it's all below ground.
A trash rack?
Yeah, we're still required for a trash rack just in case. I mean, you have inlets, we have larger pipes just in case. Yeah, we don't want to clog it. And then
I wasn't sure if there was a basin somewhere on top.
No, it's below ground. And then the O&M manual, which was also submitted, which I failed to state earlier, identifies how and when maintenance is required. And part of the maintenance would be to inspect that trash rack.
If I can just go back to your conversation about the monitoring wells. I don't know the conditions of what they are on the site, but typically they have a cap that's at a certain level. It's predetermined and it's encased in concrete so it doesn't get moved or anything like that. So are any of these wells within the construction zone?
I know that there's an agreement that Roche would relocate them as required, should they be in the way.
Well, that was going to be my other, who actually owns it? It's not you guys, it's Roche, right?
Correct, yeah.
Owns it.
I believe that testimony was provided at a previous hearing by Mr. Diaz, yes.
Correct. So all the documentation on the depth of those wells, it's all been recorded and what's in it. Because I thought I heard you say something about there might be some water in it or standing water, but
We just don't know.
if it's not a sealed well, that's a problem. Not for you guys, it's for Hoffman Roche is a problem
Exactly.
that they'll have to deal with. But if it is sealed and it's doing what it was intended to do, the water is intended to be in that well at a certain level, and that's where all those monitoring tests come into play. What's going on down there?
And I don't pretend to be an environmental engineer.
No, I've seen a few wells in my day, but and I know the purpose of them. So if they do get moved or need to be moved,
Relocated or removed based on
yeah, what you need.
relocated or closed.
Yeah, or closed, right. You have that option, Gene, based on the years. Have they been in existence a long time, those wells?
So as has been Gene Diaz again, Prism. So as has been previously testified to and well documented both in public records, Roche is the responsible party for groundwater remediation on the site. And to date, other than a small area here, has achieved regulatory compliance throughout the entire site with having drilled, I believe, in excess of 878 wells throughout the entire 118 acres, some number. The vast majority of those having met regulatory compliance have been closed, but there is still long-term monitoring wells and other monitoring wells in place across the entire 118-acre campus. But their Roche is required, if they are interrupting or interfering with proposed developments on the site, to work with the DEP to relocate those wells or provide alternate areas of drilling if they're required to be in a particular space. We actually met with Roche yesterday and their LSRP, which we do every month or so to see how they're doing on their compliance. And they don't foresee any issues with our underground detention systems interfering with their ongoing remedial efforts.
I was going to ask that, Gene, if you were in communication with Roche. It sounds like
On a constant basis.
Okay. I think that's it, Mr. Chairman, at this time.
Thank you. I just had one question. You mentioned something like, I'm going to call them filters. It filters the water, the stormwater before it cuts into the basin.
Correct.
And I assume that's something you guys maintain on a regular basis?
Yeah, this addresses the quality piece of the stormwater. And yeah, as part of the O&M manual that's submitted for Ms. Raja's review, it does identify the frequency and how often the occurrences and the frequency in which they do need to be inspected and maintained.
Okay. Thank you. I am going to go for follow-up to the board.
Okay.
Mr. Malfitano.
Yes, Rich, the outlet structure, the controlled outlet structure, where's that located in relation to the basin and
That's a great question. Let me just go over to the details we should have. Yeah, it is in the lower right-hand corner.
would you say that's in the corner, the southeast corner of the basin?
Yeah.
It's the last thing that water will leave. So is there a determined amount of discharge with that outflow structure? It's already determined by gallons, how many gallons per minute?
Not quite gallons per minute, but cubic feet per second, yes. And that's part of the design of the outlet control structure. So we have a weir, an orifice, and then the baffle wall. So there's elements of the outlet control structure that are designed to control the release of water to meet those peak flow reductions. Because when we look at the peak flow reductions, we look at it not as it leaves the basin, but as our final point of analysis further downstream, closer to the corner of Kingsland and the railroad.
No, I understand it. I just was wondering if there is a number attached to that. Have you guys, I'm sure Ms. Dipty has already reviewed that outflow structure and it sort of satisfies what the,
I mean, I could go through the discharge numbers. It's pretty technical, but
Yeah.
I do.
No, I don't need the technical.
Miss Raja.
what size is the weir? I'll figure out the rest. What size is 6 inch, 8 inch? What is the weir on that?
I was not expecting such detailed comments, sir.
Can't sleep at night unless I ask these questions.
He once asked where the hose bibs are going to be installed.
That's an architecture question tonight.
If you don't know, Rich,
I don't know offhand. I
I think
apologize.
it's on your plan.
It certainly is. Otherwise, Miss Raja would have pointed it out.
Any more questions from the board? One more follow-up, anything? We're done? Okay, so, you okay, Jerry? You got one?
Just a comment. If my memory serves me right regarding the monitoring wells, I think you addressed them either in your general notes or on one of the drawings, indicating that they would be left in place, relocated, abandoned in accordance with the governing agency. You had some general comment about that.
He certainly did.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
That's it?
Yeah. It's
Okay. So we're going to open up for questions from the board, from the public, but before that, we do that, we're going to take a 10-minute break.
Sounds good. Thank you. Can't wait for the next part. Chair, before we open it back to the public, can I just clarify one thing that I said previously?
I'm sorry?
Before we open it back up to the public, can I clarify one thing I mentioned?
Absolutely.
Everybody take their seats, please.
Let's go, everybody. Let's go.
We need to wait.
Come on, let's go.
I'm gonna text. I'm gonna text.
And Chair, if we could just have one more moment, Ms. Gonchar ran to the bathroom.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
More.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, that's part of the course. You ready? We'll see. All right. Still love you.
Yeah.
We good?
Okay, and we're back. Rich, you wanted to make a statement before we open it up to the public?
I just wanted to clarify, I said, record testimony, and I may have insinuated that Ms. Raja reviewed the revised curve under curve design. We have not made a submission, and I apologize if I misled anyone. I did mention that Ms. Raja agreed with us on the reduction of impervious, and she has not had an opportunity to review the revised curve under curve design.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to open up questioning to the public. The public is allowed to ask this witness questions specific to his testimony. This expert is an engineer, and his testimony this evening has been 99% about stormwater management and runoff. So any questions that you may have for him can relate to those questions and those questions only. So anybody would like to let the public go first? Anybody from the public like to come up and ask Rich any questions? Okay. The question and answer period will be 6 minutes.
It's only one of them. Respectfully. Procedure before we start there. Before we start the clock, procedure question. There was testimony regarding my prior testimony, and any response on those topics, I believe, should be uninterrupted with a timing constraint. Okay. Before I start.
And I'm going to call you Joe so I don't mess up your last name.
That's fine.
It's okay.
Doesn't offend me. I just, I like.
It's okay. I'm not a therapist, bro. Just.
Absolutely. It is V as in Victor. U-I-C-H. Most commonly said as simply view, as in a view out the window, which at the end, view.
Okay. Test me at the end of the night.
Consistently.
So before I begin, respectfully, would also like to offer to defer to the township engineer first, since there is a lot of the burden of substantiating their demonstrating compliance.
Asking Rich questions about his testimony. You'll have plenty of time later to do all your other stuff.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Oh, yes, please. You're representing, you're an expert representing.
I'm an expert engineer, planner, certified municipal engineer, stormwater design reviewer.
That's been simply, are you the only one who's going to be questioning?
No, that wasn't the intent, just like the previous cross-examinations.
Okay.
So they're going to have multiple.
Well, everybody in the room can ask questions if they want to. So, and this question and answer period will be 6 minutes, and it starts right now.
Okay, before we do, can we bring up your curve under curve presentation? And turn to the hydrograph, please?
No, the one that you're, yes. Okay, so the curve under curve analysis here, is this substantiated with a submission that demonstrates both of those?
No, not at this point. No, it has not been.
Okay, so none of what you presented in this presentation is substantiated on the record in the application, correct?
It was presented.
Has it been reviewed and substantiated by the township engineer?
No,
So it is your proffer that it complies and does not have technical data behind it to demonstrate it.
it would need.
What's not true?
Is it correct? Is it correct that the most substantial error in your prior stormwater report was that the appendix was not included? Which was intended to meet the curve under curve approach?
It was a wrong appendix.
Yeah. So to demonstrate major development for quantity only is what you're proposing? Right?
Under this curve under curve?
This major development application, it qualifies for quantity only?
No, there's quality as well.
There's quality provided, but it's not meant to demonstrate compliance, correct?
Why would it not demonstrate compliance?
Because the stormwater report indicates that you're not held to a water quality standard.
Correct, but we do need to.
So the pre-treatment is meant to satisfy the green infrastructure requirement, correct?
Yes.
And the intention of promoting groundwater on the property through the proposed detention system, infiltration system, what is the purpose of that?
I'm sorry, can you guys say, I don't understand.
What is the purpose of promoting groundwater infiltration on the property? Does it help meet any portion of the major development compliance?
Well, it handles a volume.
And the infiltration specifically is meant to meet the green infrastructure standard?
Yes.
And without meeting green infrastructure for a BMP, it does not meet the major development standard for water quantity, correct?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Without demonstrating compliance as a green infrastructure BMP, the proposed detention does not demonstrate major development compliance, correct?
Pre-treatment is required, yes.
Pre-treatment as well as promotion of groundwater infiltration, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and both are being promoted. And to satisfy groundwater infiltration, that needs to be done with a separation of minimum 2 feet below the bottom of the basin, correct?
For infiltration, yes.
Okay, and for the bottom of the basin, which you propose for a soil replacement of up to 8 feet below the basin, the correct interpretation from DEP is that your soil logs go 8 feet below the bottom of the BMP, which includes soil replacement, correct?
Yes.
So you will be going to some 16 feet below grade for your soil test pits.
We would need to calculate that, but yes.
And so from the bottom of your structure, the 8 feet of soil replacement plus 2 feet, 10 feet below the bottom of the structure is the required minimum separation to demonstrate green infrastructure compliance for the BMP you propose, which is the only stormwater report that demonstrates compliance. Correct?
Yeah, we would need to do the stormwater testing to confirm the design.
And you agree that the groundwater elevation must be 10 feet below the bottom of the basin if by citation of the regulation in our prior written objections, it's 2 feet below the bottom of the BMP. And when soil placement is introduced, as they do, up to 8 feet,
Are you asking me a question?
I'm correcting what they're disputing.
That's not.
That's later.
That's what?
That's later.
That's later.
When it's
Okay.
open, you remember how this goes, Joe.
No, I know.
I gave you an hour. Listen to me.
I gave it and I asked and I said,
I gave you an hour the first time you were here, and you will respect this room. Do you hear me? I will have order in here.
I agree, sir. To what depth are you required to demonstrate separation from the bottom of the vault in your proposed design as stated in your stormwater report?
We need to be 2 feet under the bottom of the system for the separation between seasonal high groundwater table and the bottom of our system.
And does the bottom of your system, by definition, under the regulations, include the soil replacement you propose?
Once we will have to do the test.
Does, yes or no, please?
I don't believe it does.
It's cited in my written objection. I don't have the time to pull citations because I'm being limited. It's factually in the record and it's in the regulations directly.
And it will be reviewed by the NJDEP as well.
Okay, under the curve, if you mind, moving over to the hydrograph theory.
Sure.
The curve under curve approach that you were intending to demonstrate previously under multiple revisions of stormwater report that has not yet demonstrated compliance, has not yet been submitted, correct?
I'm not sure what we submitted at the time did not comply, but we would need to submit a compliant plan.
So based on the fact that the site is in a flood hazard area and under tailwater conditions, you understand that the requirement to demonstrate compliance at the point of analysis is to utilize dynamic tailwater conditions, correct?
We took into account the tailwater conditions in the conveyance system.
In the conveyance system, 25-year storm design, correct?
Correct.
And then not in any other hydraulic routing as required for the 100-year storm or any lesser storm, correct?
Correct.
And so in the 100-year storm or any lesser storm, are you aware that there are two methodologies in the HydroCAD programming that allow for that dynamic tailwater?
Calculate.
And did you choose to use the free flow or the dynamic tailwater calculation?
It's free flow.
And you did a free flow calculation into a system that is under NJAC 7.8 as well as NJAC 7.13 flood hazard area required to observe the tailwater condition,
Our
correct?
basin is outside of the flood hazard area, but the
Your basin
conveyance
is, but your ultimate point of analysis is not.
correct.
Correct. And your point of ultimate discharge from the site is not, correct?
Correct.
One more question.
Is your opinion that all of TRC's previously documented data on groundwater is erroneous to the application, is unsubstantiated to establish groundwater on the site?
I'm not qualified as an environmental engineer. I'm not an environmental engineer. I do know we went out and did in situ testing, and our in situ testing were the parameters that we utilized for our design. And obviously, as mentioned several times, we will still need to do the appropriate stormwater testing, geotech for the basin.
As an engineer,
That's your last question, sir. Anybody else from the public who would like to ask this expert some questions? You have 6 minutes, Mr. Gorey.
Thank you, Rob Gorey, Gorrie, on behalf of Nutley Lumber. Mr. Perchanik, you testified that you concluded that you found objectors' points on the influence of contaminated groundwater and groundwater elevations to be unsubstantiated. Is that true?
Seasonal high groundwater.
And you testified that Mr. Voich's analysis regarding groundwater elevations were unreliable.
The data does not confirm the testing that we did in the field.
Does it, do you know the purpose that the data that was submitted and objectors, written objections, do you know where that came from?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you know where the data that was used in
TRC?
In Van Cleef's written objections, do you know where that came from? On groundwater elevations specifically. In the 9.2, in the 9.13, or in the 10.24? It was in all three of them.
No, I don't know specifically where those documents derived from, but I trust they were accurate.
You trust that the documents that on groundwater elevations were accurate?
Not for groundwater elevations, no. No, accurate for the intention of monitoring.
You're crossing how many articles
I'll give you the time.
And as part of your October 15th submission, did you provide a response to the township engineer's comment letter?
Yes.
And is there a section in that on environmental review?
Yes.
And those responses appear on page 31 to 35, is that correct?
I'll take your word for it, but sounds about right.
Did you do any environmental assessment of the On3 site or the innovation property yourself?
No, I did not.
And so did you rely on H.R. Hoffman LaRoche and TRC's reports to respond to some of those questions?
I relied on their legal counsel.
So those questions are not based on your own opinion?
Correct.
But you signed the document, isn't that correct?
As the individual author did, but it's not a signed and sealed document.
In comment 4, you discussed the Windsor Place sewer plume. Is that correct?
It came from our council.
So you didn't write any of those responses?
No.
Okay. Do you know, isn't it true that in our written responses, either I'll say specifically 9.3, which has water level elevation data for a well proposed to be under the slab, isn't it true that decades of, or 15 or so years of groundwater data was provided in objectors' 9.3 submission?
Sounds about right. I can't definitively say yes, but I'll agree with you.
And in the October 24th submission, they also provided about a decade worth of groundwater elevation data.
Take your word for that, yeah.
And that well, MW210, isn't that located in the proposed infiltration basin?
I believe so, yes, or thereabouts.
And do you know what the purpose of a monitoring well is?
Generally, yes, but I'm not an environmental engineer, nor has any of my testimony been regarding environmental.
In your experience, then, is it true that the purpose of a monitoring well is to evaluate groundwater elevations?
Not necessarily.
What is your understanding then?
I'm not an environmental
He's
engineer.
not an environmental engineer. He's not qualified.
Well, he's saying that he's testifying that it's not for evaluating groundwater elevations. So I'm asking him what it is for if he knows that's not what it's for. It seems like a fair question. Are groundwater monitoring wells used to evaluate the elevation of groundwater?
I can't say. I'm not an environmental engineer.
So the data that you have to refute decades of groundwater elevation data, what is that?
In situ testing.
And how many in situ testing events did you conduct?
18 test pits for the hydraulic reclassification, and supplemental testing or additional testing will need to be performed to comply with the DEP requirements for the underground basin.
Are test pits a valid method to evaluate groundwater elevation?
Yes, it is accepted by the NJDEP.
Test pits are accepted by the NJDEP for evaluating groundwater elevations?
Not just test pits, but the testing that goes along with it, yes.
So you collected data from 19 test pits on a single day, is that correct?
18.
18 on a single day, is that
I don't know
correct?
if it was over 1 or 2 days, but yeah.
Okay. On more than one date?
It may have been a couple of days.
Okay. You testified about good engineering practice in your testimony, isn't that correct?
I did.
Is it good engineering practice to make an engineering decision based on a single data point?
You mean one monitoring well?
I mean one date to substantiate or decide the elevation of groundwater.
Well, the testing there wasn't specifically to identify the groundwater. We still need to conduct the testing for that in accordance with the governing body, that is the NJDEP, that oversees the regulations. So yes, I would defer to the NJDEP requirements over a monitoring well.
Okay. Is it good engineering practice to disregard tens or hundreds of data points on the exact issue for a single data point that was collected on an issue that's not specifically for groundwater elevation?
We're not ignoring it. We're doing the necessary testing to demonstrate to the DEP where the seasonal high groundwater table is.
Okay. And I'm going to just ask a question regarding if the elevations that Roche and TRC have identified for groundwater at the site, if they're correct, as they've been documented over decades, what would the effect be on the infiltration basin?
We would have to redesign the basin to maintain our 2 feet of separation.
If groundwater was above the top of the basin, as it was in the first quarter of 2025, would the infiltration basin be able to accept any additional stormwater?
You have an objection?
It is in the record. It's in the October 24th submission where we outline water levels for the last 10 years. No, we're pulling them directly from Roche reports. I'm not characterizing it.
Overruled. Okay, you have one more question, Mr. Gorey.
So if groundwater elevations are above the height of the basin, what would the effect be for stormwater trying to enter that basin?
We would have to raise the basin.
And if groundwater elevation levels were above ground surface of the proposed innovation center, what would you have to do with the basin?
The basin is not permitted in the seasonal high groundwater elevation.
Thank you, Mr. Gorey. Is there anybody else from the public who has any questions for this expert?
Maybe address it so that it can be on the record, hopefully you can hear me.
Rich, give her the mic, please.
Thanks, Rich. I've never seen this before, where an engineer who is not an interested party other than as an expert on behalf of an objector is cross-examining a witness, and then the two attorneys who are appearing in their representative capacity of a supposed interested party are also asking questions. It's just irregular in terms of somebody who's hired as an expert acting as an attorney doing cross-examination. I think that's irregular and practicing without a license, but thank you.
Mr. Davis, you have questions? Excuse me, when you're sitting here, you can ask that question. You heard what she said. Mr. Davis, I'm sorry, did you want to ask, Mr. Davis, I'm sorry, did you want to ask him a question? You got up when I asked, and then you walked over. I thought you might want to. Okay. Ms. Contra, you have any redirect?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Now, would you have anything else for Rich? He's done?
Subject to our right to recall.
Understood. Okay, so now I think it's time to hear from our expert.
Is it okay if I disconnect my laptop? I'm running low on battery charge. Okay.
Ms. Rajan?
Appreciate it.
Don't worry about it. Can I give you the extra one? Good evening. Do I need to be testified again?
You have to identify yourself.
Last name, the first name Ditti, last name Raja.
You promise to say everything you're about to say is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Okay, so we did receive the revised submission dated October 15, 2025 from the applicant's engineer. As stated previously multiple times this evening, the applicant has changed the approach. We're not following the curve under curve approach, and we're going to, the applicant is trying to follow the peak reduction rates approach. Our office has reviewed the stormwater management report and the plans, and at this time, I don't have any questions. There were several comments that were identified in our letter dated October 27, 2025, which state that there are several comments which were satisfied. Majority of the comments were satisfied, and there are some comments that to be satisfied during resolution compliance should only the board look favorably upon this application. There were some additional stormwater comments and some additional, I believe 10 comments that were added to the report, which are relevant to the new stormwater design that was being proposed. And none of those comments were to be clarified at this time. And at this time, I don't have any question on those comments. I think it was testified tonight by the applicant's engineer that all the comments will be addressed in the letter, and given that testimony, I don't have any additional comments at this point. So
Thank you. Open up questions to the board for Ms. Raja. Commissioner? Carol? Walt? Kathy?
Just one very quick one. Going back to the last meeting we had, I had asked in your professional opinion if they had done more than the DEP regulations, would that make it better for the application? And you had said yes, that you thought so. And do you feel comfortable with the more that they're doing that?
I believe so. So like I said, it was clarified in the testimony earlier. I didn't actually see the new curb under curb reports. At this point, I can't testify if they have met the original method or not. But regardless, at this point, I don't think it matters. They are trying to do these peak reduction flow requirements, and assuming that they did meet that, yes, in that condition, they are going above and beyond what's required. And that does make me feel more comfortable because I think it's a commendable effort on the applicant's end to consider that. And yes, I do feel more comfortable.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Cantella? Mr. Del Tufo?
Yes, just one. Ms. Raji, in your October 27th letter, the most recent, in your reference to their new stormwater design, your office provided 10 comments, in addition to others on the revised plans, but specific to the stormwater, you provided 10 comments. And you indicated that they could be resolved during the resolution compliance period.
Correct.
Or as part of resolution compliance. You guys are comfortable that those 10 outstanding stormwater comments could be resolved?
I'm comfortable saying that since the applicant testified tonight that those conditions will be met. Most of the comments in those 10 comments are about addressing things either on the details or the few things that it's not like confident that the design will. Yes, we're asking for more clarifications, and like the engineer testified, if they were to go back, we're asking for soil test results. So if they go back and do soil test results, and if something else were to change, they would keep us in the loop, and we would work to see if the basing needs to be revised or not. But at this point, there isn't anything else that we saw in the report that we had a concern about that we had to bring up tonight.
Most were actually discussed. Most of your comments were discussed during prior testimony, Mr. Chief Justice. Okay. That's all.
Very simple question, Dipty. Are you confident now that this application is in compliance with stormwater management in our town, and that retention basin will do what we've been wanting it to do since we got here?
I believe so. And given the fact that I do want to bring the fact up that this application doesn't end at the municipal engineer's review. The applicant has made us aware that it will go to the DEP. Everyone knows that the application is contingent to the DEP's flood review, environmental review. So if anything were to come up at that point from the DEP standpoint, the applicant has said that they'll keep us in the loop. But at this point in time, I'm confident to say that, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Mosnato?
Yeah, I know. But I threw you off a little bit. Ms. Dipty, not to sound repetitive or I'm stating the question just differently from the previous questions, but you mentioned that it's still in development stage, some of the details of the stormwater. But to me, it seems like in the direction they're headed, eventually it's going to be satisfied or going to meet the requirements. It may not right today because you haven't had a chance to review all the data yet. And as the chairman just pointed out, that it's come a long way since the September meeting. It seems so long ago, August meeting, that, we didn't have anything. In that July meeting, we didn't have anything presented at that time. And now we have something that, is an improvement from what we said. Some of those other details, I know that, the Pannoni group will definitely do its due diligence as you have for all these months. But again, it was just a point that we seem to be headed in the right direction as we.
I would agree with that.
Money. Okay.
I would agree with that.
Any follow-up from the board? Okay. I'll open up to questions from the public for our expert. Again, this is an engineering testimony, and it will be questions about engineering only.
Okay.
Again, the questions will last 6 minutes.
Hi, Ms. Dipty. Again, this is Rob Gorey for objector Nutley lumber. Is mic working?
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to ask that if groundwater elevations are found to be within the infiltration basin, would the infiltration basin still be a practical method for a seasonal high water table is within the basin? Would it still be a acceptable method for stormwater mitigation at the site?
If that were to occur at the site, I believe the applicant's engineer testified that they'll meet with us and see what else could be done for the stormwater design. So I don't have a concern at this point.
But would the stormwater, they submitted a stormwater report, isn't that correct?
Say that again?
They submitted a stormwater management report on October 15th, right? And compliance with the stormwater regs is based upon utilization of a subsurface infiltration system.
Yes,
correct?
but it's a typical practice to have the infiltration test results as a part of the resolution compliance set. So that's something that we've been doing. So I don't require that data at this given point of time.
And if groundwater is found to be above the basin, would they still be able to install an infiltration basin?
No, but they said that they would revisit and do the stormwater review with us again, and they will keep us in the loop. So at this point, I'm not uncomfortable with the approach.
Okay. So would, for example, they maybe have to install above ground detention?
I would defer that to the applicant's engineer, however they want to pursue the design, but they're willing to keep us in the loop and let us know if that were to happen. It really depends on the soil test results. We really have to wait for the results to see what it comes out to. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a part of, it will be looked at prior to the signing of the plans and prior to issuing of permits, but it's not required at this point. That's the typical way we approach it.
Okay. And were you provided a copy of Van Cleef's October 24th written objection?
That came in on Monday.
It was posted to the share site on Monday, I believe.
I did not review it. I'm sorry. It was just maybe like a few days back. So no, I actually don't even review. I believe there was another email that came today that was subjected to the Benoni's letter. I don't review that as well because I think it came at 3:00 today. If I didn't get a chance.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
If groundwater was to elevate into the BMP as designed and discharge through the outlet control structure, would it constitute an illicit discharge under the Nutley Township Code?
If it were to,
That's a legal opinion.
No, I don't believe it is. It's by code and definition.
I do believe it is. Next question.
Okay. Has the applicant submitted if groundwater was to elevate above the outlet control structure, would it discharge from the site so that groundwater is discharging without being accounted for?
sorry, repeat the question. If
groundwater was to elevate past the outlet control structure, above the outlet control structure, to discharge out of the outlet control structure, would it ultimately discharge the site and not be accounted for in the stormwater calculations? Because it is groundwater.
Correct.
And would those volumes then impact the flood hazard area?
Yes, but it depends on the groundwater elevation data, and that's not an assumption that's made when design reports are being prepared. So that's not something I...
Are you familiar with the MS4 permit for the township? Are you familiar with the MS4 permit for the township and the GIPTES program permit for the township?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the obligations of the township to review all major developments under that permit?
Yes.
To be demonstrated for compliance prior to approvals?
Correct.
And do you feel that that compliance has been demonstrated to you with submitted record prior to today's date?
At this point, contingent on DEP's approval.
Contingent upon?
DEP's approval.
Okay. If an application was to be approved as a major development, your understanding, is it your understanding of the MS4 permit that DEP has a right to an audit of the major development stormwater review?
Correct?
And if that review was found to be deficient, whose responsibility to make the balance of mitigation would it be?
So I cannot speak out of experience because that hasn't happened yet.
You haven't been audited yet.
I haven't been audited yet. And if that were to happen, I would believe it would be the engineer who signed the letter. I don't know the answer to that because that hasn't happened to me yet. So.
Would you accept it to be fact if I was to tell you that from my understanding of that permit intimately, that the burden falls on the municipality and not the applicant?
Okay, I don't know the answer to that. So if that's what you're saying, I can't testify because I don't know the answer to that.
Are you familiar with the principal prongs of preliminary approval and the requirements to satisfy the matters that relate to public health and welfare?
Yes.
And you feel that those have been met?
The ones that are pertaining to engineering, not
Yes,
beyond.
and you feel that those have been met. The four principal prongs are related to engineering.
Okay.
Do you feel that those have been met?
I don't see any, from an engineering perspective, I reviewed this application against the DEP requirements and I feel, in my professional opinion, that has been met. I'm not aware of any health requirements specifically that I need to be looked at. That's not in my purview as a municipal engineer.
Are you confident that the flood hazard area line that's shown on the plans by Colliers is the correct 100-year floodplain elevation?
The flood hazard line that has been shown currently is the current LOMAR line that has been used. I think in the letter we do clarify that even though a new application was provided, they don't intend on using the new line. So the existing line is what's being used.
The line on the plan, per their testimony and per their notes, is from the FEMA map that's effective.
The current
Correct?
effective. Yeah, yeah.
And that line on the plan, as referenced against the FEMA map in comparison to their plan, would be the floodway on the site, not the 100-year floodplain. Is that correct? Are you aware of that fact?
I'm not aware of that fact, but as far as them mapping the line based on the current FEMA regulations,
Could the applicant produce their site plan on the screen so we can look at it, as well as the FEMA effective map? Okay, I'll deal with it in presentation later. I do. If you would like to take a hiatus, I'll pull it up. Would that be appropriate? I know, sorry, I pulled it away from myself, right? I can produce it if I need to. If we would like to take a brief hiatus, I can pull that up, but I thought it would be quicker to get it from the applicant. Do you feel that the cut fill analysis within the floodplain has been submitted and documented to you as required under the Nutley Code and cited in our objection letters? Most specifically, today's letter, as well as, I believe September 12th, but I'm sure I'll be wrong.
I don't think I have reviewed the cut fill analysis part of it. I don't remember it right now if I did, so I don't want to testify to that.
We did clarify previously that you had not yet reviewed our objections of October 24th or October 29th, correct?
Correct.
Have you reviewed any of our prior 3 objections?
The prior 3 objections, yeah, but those were like 150 pages or more each, so I haven't been through all of the page, but I skimmed through it, so I might not remember every point.
And the stormwater report produced by Colliers is some 200-something pages, and all multiple versions and revisions are in excess of 200 pages. Did you skim through any of those documents?
It's my professional obligation to review that. That's why I cannot skim review that properly.
Is it not your professional obligation to consider any reasonable evidence produced by an expert?
Sir, if you have any question, please feel free to.
Last question. That was your last question. By the way, she's not required to review your report.
It's not what I asked. It's not what I asked.
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay.
I phrased it differently.
Yeah.
Respectfully, it was not about me. It was about any expert.
Anybody else from the public like to ask questions of this expert?
Howard Davis from Davis Environmental Law. The applicant engineer testified that there's information that they don't have regarding the groundwater elevations that they purport to get by doing additional investigatory work. Do you recollect that? Is that true?
Correct.
No. We can continue on.
What's the objection?
Testimony, if he wants to quote our witness, he should ask for the testimony to be read back.
Do you want to read it back?
If you'd like to read it back, read it back.
Mr. Diaz, you're satisfied? Then go on.
If they want to read it back, read it back.
Go on.
Would you read it back to satisfy all? It's our objection.
All right, we can move on. Mr. Davis, your next question, we can move on. Read that back. All right, go.
Thank you.
Please, like fifth grade here.
So it's your understanding that the applicant intends on doing an investigation, including test pits, to discern the level of groundwater. Is that correct?
Direct testimony was provided tonight.
And it's your understanding.
Mr. Davis, speak into the mic a little bit more, please. Thank you.
And it's your understanding that that's material and critical to understanding that the applicant needs that information in order to take a position as to the groundwater levels. Is that correct?
Correct. That information should be.
Do you know when they're intending to do that?
I think they mentioned January in the testimony.
But that's not for her to answer.
And yeah,
Well, if she knows it is.
it was a direct testimony provided tonight.
Exactly. It was testified that they're going to do, and the wet season, it should start somewhat time in January, but there's no exact date yet.
Could you read that back? Because I don't recollect that, if you could. No.
No.
I could take a representation.
TikTok, Mr. Davis, TikTok.
January to April. So are you familiar with determining groundwater level using monitoring wells? Have you had any experience regarding environmental investigations?
No, I'm not involved in any environmental engineering aspects of my firm.
Has anyone other than you at your firm reviewed groundwater elevation levels?
Does anybody have the experience to do it in my firm?
Well, let's ask that question. Does anyone have the experience?
There are LSRPs in our firm.
Has anyone at your firm reviewed groundwater elevations? Other than
Pertaining to what? Pertaining to?
pertaining to the levels of groundwater in the area where they're intending to put in stormwater detention basin?
For this site? No.
For this site?
No.
Has anyone but you at your firm reviewed any aspect of the applicant's submissions?
Any aspect? Which aspect are we talking about? Technical and
Environmental aspect.
yes, the comments that were in our letter, I believe it was in the first letter or the second letter, where we have a special environmental review section comments, which were pertaining more to not the groundwater level, they were pertaining to the agreements and the ongoing buy-in certifications that Roche is supposed to provide. And I believe that was clarified by the applicant himself, that they are in constant touch with the applicant and with Roche, and they're working on that.
Have they testified at this proceeding?
The beginning of this proceeding, I believe the applicant himself would.
Has anyone from your firm?
No.
Okay,
More questions?
thank you.
Thank you. Any follow-up from the board before we let Ms. Dippy sit down?
I just want to reiterate that it's Roche is our expert.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Carol. We've heard over our testimony, so I'm going to open up open comments to the public. You cannot ask questions. You can give facts. You can give your opinion. You can, it's an open mic. It is typically 3 minutes. I will allow 6 minutes per citizen. Anybody from the public would like to speak, open comments on this project? No, he was.
Wait until anybody else from the public.
No, they seem okay. Right? Nobody from the public wants to speak up? Okay. You got 6 minutes.
All right. In my 6 minutes, respectfully, I'm not going to address any content because it's already on record in our written objections. I would like to clarify with the board that all 5 of our written objections are in and entered on the record. Is that correct? Okay. I do object.
I don't think, excuse me, I don't think the one that we got today is on the record, is it?
Yeah, no, they're good.
It is?
Okay, so today's, inclusive of today's, is on the record, correct? I'd like to formally object to the timing constraints of the public testimony, specifically in that I was given up to about 50 minutes before cross that entered another 30 minutes or so on prior submissions. And this is a substantial revision and resubmission that has significant deficiencies in stormwater management rules, the flood hazard rules, and other matters that are constituted to the obligations of the board to address prior to preliminary approval. Well established in case law, and I would refer you to Hoboken versus Shipyard, which is unfortunately the case law that governs whether or not after you've provided that initial preliminary approval, you can look back and change any of the regulations to current standards. And so I'll rest on what is submitted to the board and the plethora of that information that has not been directly addressed by the applicant in submissions, in testimony, or considered by your engineer in review, and respectfully differ in opinion from all the other professionals in the room, and anecdotally, as Ms. Gonchar had indicated previously, all of the other engineers in the state of New Jersey who apparently don't get it right, and I might be the only one. I'm never going to claim that, but I will say that I understand the rules and regulations. I understand the cross relationship between the federal regulations on major development, which constitute the definition of common plan of development, which is consistent with this application and consistent with the entirety of the marketed on 3 development. And that matter is unresolved and unaddressed in completeness. Under this application, that should be addressed. There's a host of other errors and omissions from prior applications that should be revisited because of the lack of information that was presented in your municipality and in your adjacent municipality that specifically impact the flood hazard area we're talking about in this application, as well as the public health and welfare of all of the residents in this community that live on the branch of the St. Paul's Brook, the Springer Brook, which we all understand are 2 specifically different branches because one of them is piped underground around through this property and the other is the live open stream, as well as the Third River and all the way through your community. The same residents who were all previously affected by flooding. And I do dispute any claim that there is a curve under curve demonstrated approach, as it has not been submitted. It is not on record. And until it is improper to make the statements that Mr. Diaz made earlier regarding it, as well as the testimony that was provided to you with a simple curve and curve on the screen. You demonstrate compliance with curve under curve approach by 1, reducing intensity of development to reduce the total runoff flow, and 2, by maintaining the similar timing as not to change the timing such that that curve remains under the curve at all times. And that is inherently the struggle that the applicant has gone through under multiple revisions of the stormwater report before they changed their compliance mechanism. And they are only demonstrating one compliance mechanism, severely requiring multitudes of additional testing and additional confirmation to meet resolution compliance when it is, in fact, well understood that it is a burden prior to preliminary approval. So I do please request that you heed my warning and consider the implications of preliminary approval, not only the preliminary and final that's being asked of you, But understand that any substantial change, particularly the change to change this approach to go to a curve on curve under curve from the now peak flow reduction, or an alternative approach of peak flow reduction that requires above ground detention and substantial change to the site plan layout, which may in fact create discrepancies with the redevelopment plan and require amended redevelopment plan, would also arguably require amended preliminary approval. And to those reasons, I cite that this is not in a position to be voted on at this time for preliminary only approval. And deferring to DEP respectfully is inappropriate. Okay? They may be our higher authority, our state government, and the federal government as well, higher than them. But they do not hold the responsibilities that this board and this township hold in their codified code to address these issues prior to preliminary approval. And that is a well-documented fact. So engineers across the state can defer to the DEP. It's inappropriate. Just because somebody else did it doesn't mean it's correct. And everything that I said in my prior written objections that relates to stormwater management, the major development rules, the interpretation of those rules, the evolution of those rules through various amendments by the state of New Jersey for the entirety of my professional career, right? I got out of college in 2006. Those rules came in 2004. I was licensed years after that. But respectfully, the people that perform the calculations on those reports are not all licensed. And they're also not certified design storm reviewers like me and Ms. Dipty are. And we understand those rules. We understand common plan of development because my junior engineer, who is licensed, sat through the course recently with DEP, the most recent course where they discuss common plan of development. And when I discuss common plan of development with the bureau chief at the DEP, who wrote the rules, in generalities, not to this application, right? Because I wanted to speak about phase development, marketed common plans of development, and it was all corroborated. And I understand that's going to be objected to as hearsay, but I will tell you, my ethics as a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, which have not been questioned and have not been brought to the Attorney General by the applicant or anybody else for anything that I unsubstantiated and claimed in my testimony and in my written objections. By my ethics, I tell you, and I swear to you, those are the correct interpretations. They are written in the rule promulgations. And they are corroborated with FAQs from the state of New Jersey that I've referenced in my documents, and they are corroborated through my dialogue and relationship with those representatives at DEP. So please consider, it is not, I repeat, it is not providing anything greater than what is required because there is one method of compliance that they partially demonstrate subject to additional information. And that chosen, elected way of doing so is peak flow reduction, not curve under curve, and still does not contemplate the appropriate multiple drainage areas that were acknowledged by your engineer and their engineer and then removed from the current report. We contend there are 4. They've agreed there's at least 2. And those points of analysis need to be understood and analyzed. And if you are going to look at one common point of analysis, there's further required by statute and administrative code requirements to ensure additional analysis such that it does not create a detriment to public health and safety. Thank you for your time. I apologize for my fever. And it is only in the interest of your residents because I used to live nearby here. And I do find that this is a wonderful community that deserves to be protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Anybody else from public would like to speak on this project? Public speaking section is closed. I will open up discussion from the board, but before I do. I'm sorry. You have a summation? Let's hear it.
They'll tell me if I'm too quiet. We appreciate the board's careful attention to this application and its professionals' feedback, comments, and suggestions on this application. PB Nutcliff Master LLC, the applicant, is, as we've noted, seeking preliminary and final site plan approval for a 3-story building consisting of approximately 147,076 square feet of research and development facilities, laboratories, fabrication and processing, along with accessory office and warehouse storage space. Currently, there are approximately 285 parking spaces, which, as you heard, is down from the 293 previously proposed. There is loading bay area, bicycle parking, and other site improvements. We note that the 285 is still more than the redevelopment plan requires at 212, and this is based upon what we understand to be the operational needs of the anticipated end user. We would characterize the application under the plan as an as-of-right application. To go back briefly to how we got here, the township adopted a redevelopment plan to determine what uses would be acceptable and the acceptable extent or intensity of development for those uses. The governing body then had the opportunity to review this plan before it was submitted to this board, and they looked at the proposal to evaluate it against the redevelopment plan, and the Board of Commissioners determined that the proposal was in fact consistent with the plan that they had adopted. Both the township's expert planner, Mr. Reiner, and this board's expert, Mr. Ricky, confirmed and endorsed the consistency of the plan. So challenges to the consistency or questions raised about it are not supported by the actions that have been taken by the township or the testimony and the written letters from the township and the board's experts in planning. No variances or exceptions or deviations are required. This is not just the opinion of the applicant and its expert consultants, but is confirmed by the board's own trusted advisors. This was specifically confirmed on the record by Mr. Ricky, and no deviations from the redevelopment plan were identified in any of the other letters that were provided by any consultants for the board. In fact, the project does not even come close to reaching the limits of the permissible bulk standards, meaning that the developer did not attempt to max out the extent of development that's permitted under the redevelopment plan. The building height is designed to 68 feet where 80 feet is permitted. The impervious coverage, which is in fact being reduced from the existing condition, is below the percentage that's permitted, as is the building coverage, also at about half of what's permitted. And the setbacks are generally exceeded over the minimums required under the redevelopment plan. The project has been or will be on an ongoing basis revised in response to comments and concerns raised by the board and its consultants. As but one example, the board engineer had requested that the boulevard treatment at the entrance, which divides the entrance into, in essence, 2 roads, be set back an additional 6 feet to provide ease of movement. And we have agreed, obviously subject to Essex County's review, since Kingsland is a county road under their jurisdiction. Otherwise, we're happy to do that. There had also been a request, I think, from your council to increase the number of bicycle parking spaces where 10 are required under the plan. And in fact, 30 are proposed, 24 of them within the building and 6 exterior. In addition, some changes in the area in front of the entrance were requested from your fire chief to enhance the maneuverability for their equipment, and we have indicated that we will make those changes to their satisfaction. In addition, we have not only agreed to review the invasive species in the landscaping area, which is proposed to be maintained for buffer adjacent to the residential area, but which was in your forester's letter, but we will work with any other concerns that may come up from the forester if the application is approved to make the landscaping to his satisfaction, as we have done with other projects in the community. The project is therefore compliant with regard to use, intensity, bulk, area, and yard standards, including coverage, parking, landscaping, and lighting. Mr. Ricky, in fact, testified, quote, "It is extremely rare to have a project that is variance and deviation free in the redevelopment scenario." The application therefore seeks preliminary and final site plan approval. The applicant's civil engineer and traffic engineer testified that the project will have safe and efficient access and internal circulation. As I noted, we still propose 285 vehicle parking spaces, which exceeds the minimum requirement. The project will provide the required number of ADA spaces. We had added one to which was originally on the plan and now meets that requirement. And we are also providing the required EV, electric vehicle, parking spaces as required by statute. We did testify, and our engineer presented an exhibit which indicated that while we had done emergency vehicle circulation initially, we were using a dated piece of equipment, and we were given that information from the fire chief. So there was an exhibit presented which has now been incorporated in the plan set, which accurately reflects the equipment that's currently being used in the township. We have also indicated our agreement to all of the other comments in the fire chief's letter, including the number of hydrants and their location, in order to assure compliance with the National Fire Code standards. The loading dock area was specifically designed to accommodate what are anticipated to be the largest trucks, the WB50, that will be coming to the site. And the design of the loading area was done with a sensitivity to what would be visible to the residents. They are tucked into the building, covered and surrounded by significant landscaping, as well as the difference in topo between the two sites, which will also separate the proposed building from the residents and also limit their view. The applicant's traffic engineer testified that the project would cause minimal off-site traffic impacts. The traffic report and testimony were reviewed by the board's own retained consultant, who concurred with the information provided by the applicant's traffic consultants and was generally in accord, and indicated it was generally in accord with, he was in accord with the various underlying assumptions and conclusions that were in our expert's report. The board's traffic engineer also concurred with regard to levels of service for nearby intersections, the acceptability and safety of access, and also found the internal circulation to be acceptable, again, consistent with the applicant's traffic consultant testimony and report. In response to a comment from the board's engineer, the applicant has agreed to add additional sidewalk from Kingsland into the site, which will meet a crosswalk a portion of the way up to provide additional connectivity for pedestrians. Intersection or any improvements or repairs to be done to Kingsland Street, which was also the subject of a comment, we will attempt to accommodate, but obviously to the extent it involves the county road, we are also subject to the county's input in that regard. As indicated on the plans and in testimony, the proposed lighting will be LED so that the light levels can be adjusted and where appropriate placed on timers in order to reduce the extent and intensity of lighting when the building is not operating, save, of course, for security needs, including the ability of employees to get to their cars in the lot after dark. And the plan will meet the dark sky standards. Testimony also establishes that the proposed landscaping emphasizes the use of native plant material throughout the site, which will allow reduced irrigation requirements, support biodiversity, and reduce the need for chemical fertilizers and pesticides. There was not a lot of commentary from the board's forester, except for the concern with invasive species, but as we indicated, we will work with him when we finalize or install the actual plantings and be guided by his comments if we proceed. We also provided uncontroverted testimony that the project as proposed will comply based on the equipment that was analyzed with local and state noise limitations. The equipment that's proposed will have silencers or louvers to mitigate impacts of any noise generated from the operation that's anticipated, and there will be screening between the generator around the generator at the site. The board's acoustical expert confirmed the testimony presented on behalf of the applicant and added that from a noise perspective, he felt that this type of use was appropriate, noting that the property is properly zoned and near similar uses in the area. The conclusion from all of the noise testimony is that the project will be able to meet both the daytime and nighttime noise standards that are applicable to the site. The applicant's architect detailed how the project design specifically took into account the adjacent residents and testified that the building has been designed to meet the design standards from the plan and also achieve various environmental benefits. The use of glass has been maximized in order to take advantage of natural light coming into the building and to reduce the amount of artificial light that's required, and an attempt also to reduce energy consumption. The design emphasized energy efficient systems which will be used, including those to help reduce water usage. The building was designed from what we believe to be an aesthetic perspective to assure that the residents, to the extent that they can see anything, will see something that is attractive and non-offensive or intrusive. The board expert consultants, including the planner and traffic expert and acoustical experts, either confirmed the testimony and reports of the applicant's experts, and to the extent that there were any questions raised, appeared satisfied and accepted the testimony, so that we do not believe that there are any outstanding items in terms of those issues. With regard to engineering, the most recent letter, as testified to this evening by Ms. Raja, indicates that the vast majority of the comments in earlier letters have now been addressed to the satisfaction of the board's engineer. And while there remain a few items to be addressed as part of resolution compliance, this is certainly, as she has testified, within normal practice of the board and within industry norms. And the vast majority of comments now are indicated to have been satisfied. Obviously, there are some that are ongoing, and those we will continue to be bound by. There was also testimony with regard to the utilities to be provided, with the applicant's engineer testifying with regard to the source for water and power to the site, and the means for how sewer would be addressed, and all of those elements were addressed. And there was also discussion about the applicant's undertakings with regard to metering, both water and sewer, and how that would be undertaken on an ongoing basis. As the board is aware, this applicant has been before this board many times because it made a commitment to this redevelopment almost a decade ago, and it has worked with this board to create a showpiece recognized statewide and beyond for what redevelopment can achieve. And throughout this history, the applicant and owner has presented applications before you anchored by the same core experts, Rich Prochnick, Dave Novat, Matt Seckler, among others, whose testimony as to what would be built and what would be sought has been borne out. Time and again, what PB Nutcliff has, through the team, testified that it will do, it has done. And when we present our case through our experts, the board's acceptance and acknowledgement of their expertise is based upon more than the presentation of their credentials. It is also based upon their earned credibility over the course of time as projects were approved and then built out as they were approved, both here in Nutley and in Clifton. Obviously, the method of addressing stormwater management has been an issue during these hearings. The reason for that is largely because Nutley Lumber has objected to the application and premised its objection upon the applicant's proposed means of satisfying DEP requirements for managing stormwater. Lest the board forget, Nutley Lumber is pursuing litigation against the applicant, not related to any specific application. They also, in that litigation, named the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection as a defendant. And as we previously noted, as part of the claims, they asserted that PB Nutcliff had failed to either obtain necessary permits or approvals or were taking steps that were not authorized by DEP. And they also claimed that DEP had failed to enforce its regulations or to require PB Nutcliff to do things it should have been attempting to enforce. The New Jersey Attorney General's office, on behalf of the DEP, disagreed with all of Nutley Lumber's allegations in terms of the need for additional permits or DEP's alleged failure to enforce its own regulations. And we have already placed in the record the Attorney General's position on behalf of DEP that there were no permits that were required, no approvals that were necessary, and no undertakings which DEP should have required of PB Nutcliff or that it had failed to do. And as a result, at the Attorney General's urging, the court dismissed those claims against the DEP. So you have an objector who has property downstream in a floodplain, who has built in that floodplain, has expanded its buildings over time, and now seeks money damages against the applicant before you. DEP's position before the court that PB Nutcliff had not done or failed to do anything it was not allowed or authorized to do should bear weight. It appears that Nutley Lumber is attempting to use these proceedings to stop PB Nutcliff from being able to proceed with the development of a project that the township has determined is appropriate at this location as designed, since the project is wholly compliant with the redevelopment plan that was adopted by the Township Board of Commissioners and pursuant to a plan that was, of course, referred to this board during the redevelopment plan adoption process. So Nutley Lumber, through its engineer, has submitted a lot of paper. But in our view, and based upon the testimony of our witnesses on behalf of PB Nutcliff Master LLC and the reports of the board engineer and the board engineer's written submissions, much of which of what has been submitted is, in our view, incorrect, misleading, and without legal or regulatory support. The letter reads more as a document prepared by a lawyer or an advocate rather than something one would expect from an engineer, which are generally not full of editorial comments and ad hominem attacks on other experts. Our engineer has already refuted much of what has been included in the letters submitted on behalf of Nutley Lumber, which are painfully redundant, repeating the same arguments, the same unfounded criticisms, and the same attacks over and over again, quoting from something referred to as crib notes by Jonathan Drill, whatever crib notes are, which is hardly a scholarly work or authority for positions being asserted before this board. I've known Jonathan for over 30 years. He's lovely, but I don't know that crib notes are scholarly authority. Let me focus on but a few mischaracterizations, erroneous assertions, and outright misstatements. The applicable DEP regulations, which with regard to major development, as Rich has testified this evening, are a threshold test and nothing more, and are intended to assure that a development is not broken down into components which individually do not meet the threshold in terms of either the extent of disturbance, the creation of regulated impervious surfaces, or the creation of regulated motor vehicle surfaces. This is clear from the DEP quote, from the DEP rationale for the rule adoption. When Mr. Say it again. View.
Move your way.
Mr. V quotes, but which he emphasizes by bold language. So when he quotes it, he quotes those portions which draw attention away from what the rule purpose actually is, as stated. The language, He repeatedly asserts the unsupported theory that the DEP regulations require the property comprising the multiple developments that comprise the On3 campus should be evaluated or must be evaluated jointly for purposes of stormwater management. He claims that the entire development is a major development within the meaning of the regulation. From the express language of the rule as well as the explanatory language which DEP puts in their explanations and the comments, he's wrong. The project before the board is a major development, as defined in applicable regulations. The applicant has designed the stormwater management in accordance with the DEP regulations applicable to a major development. PB Nutcliff Master has never denied that the application is a major development. As but one example of the misleading nature of the Nutley lumber arguments in this regard, when quoting from comments to a rule proposal in his letter, as well as the PowerPoint, he selectively highlights portions of the DEP comment, leaving out that language which makes it clear that he appears to be the lone voice in advancing this theory. The rationale for the rule makes clear that the rule is intended to ensure that projects must meet the standard for major development if they satisfy one of the three criteria. If they do, they must meet the standards and regulations for a major development. And they must be compliant with those rules. Therefore, the purpose of the rule is to assure that projects are not evaluated in such a way as to allow the developer to avoid the need to comply with the stormwater management requirements that are only applicable to major developments. Here, the applicant has already acknowledged their obligation to comply and that it is subject to those rules. It has not broken a project down such that it does not have to meet the minimum area of disturbance or any other threshold, or to avoid compliance with those regulations. The objector is creating a new rule or regulation which says that even if you are a major development, you have to create a super major development for some purpose if someone other than DEP, here the objector's engineer, determines that you should. This theory, as we previously pointed out, was advanced by Mr. Davis on behalf of Nutley Lumber before the Clifton Planning Board during the Starbucks application in 2023. When that argument was advanced, it was soundly rejected by the Clifton Planning Board engineer, Mr. Curris of the Neglia engineering firm. Mr. Curris stated, you couldn't have a bunch, say, smaller minor developments to avoid having to meet the major development criteria. But the testimony of their engineer, PB Nutcliffe's engineer, provided in their report, they've acknowledged that this is a major development. As it stands, even though it's a small piece, it's greater than an acre. It's a major development, and they are satisfying the state's criteria for stormwater management for a major development. So they're not avoiding meeting the major development criteria by submitting a report specific to this site. So the city ordinance is the same as the state's stormwater management ordinance. The report that they've submitted satisfies both the state requirement for a major development and the city ordinance for a major development. As the engineer testified, there's a significant reduction in impervious coverage, which by definition, by the state's definition for stormwater quantity requirements, in doing so, they meet the ordinance, they meet the state requirement for a major development. So I mean, that's the burden on the applicant. That's from the August 24, 2023 transcript, which is a matter of public record. As we've previously noted, the objector's engineer cites to numerous stormwater management reports that have been submitted in Nutley and in Clifton, including many that were not presented by or on behalf of PB Nutcliff Master, but rather by other applicants, Quest in Clifton and the Med School in Nutley. Those include stormwater reports presented by Langen Engineering, Land Engineering, Greenberg Farrow, by Colliers, among others. And those reports have been, over the years, reviewed by Neglia and by Pannoni. All of those were reviewed or prepared by reputable licensed professional engineers in the state of New Jersey. None of those engineers subscribe to the theory that the objector's engineer has advanced. None. Simply put, what is being cited is for the purpose of determining if there is an avoidance of designation of a project as a major development in order to avoid compliance with the regs. That's the only thing that addresses. And since we've acknowledged that we are a major development, there should be no issue, and all of that is wasted effort without any authority to support it. Obviously, we object. It's clearly hearsay to claim conversations with someone who's not present to confirm it. And we would also point out that to the extent that that issue was raised, no appeal was ever taken in Clifton after that was raised by Nutley Lumber and rejected by the engineer, by the applicant's engineer, as well as the board's engineer. This board's engineer has also not subscribed to that theory or indicated that there is any obligation under the regulations to do an overall stormwater report of multiple projects. The concept of the common plan of development, again, is to capture, in essence, efforts to divide up a development in order to avoid being designated as a major development. There is no reason to use that concept here where there is no attempt to avoid either designation or compliance with those regulations. Also, the fact that that wasn't appealed perhaps gives it some legal viability in terms of being the law of the case, because in fact, it was not challenged, and that was a determination made as part of that application. I would also assert that it is way too late to be challenging. Nutley Lumber has received notice of every application that was submitted to this board or to Clifton. They had every opportunity, if they wanted to raise issues, chose not to do so. Those approvals have been properly granted. Where necessary, DEP has granted approvals, and the time for appealing them or to ask this board to somehow assert jurisdiction to overturn an approval granted years ago in Clifton is a little way out there. By the testimony, as our engineer testified repeatedly, there are a number of ways to satisfy the DEP requirements with regard to a major development. We did come in initially with a proposal to utilize the curve under curve methodology. We have not asserted, nor have we suggested that this evening we demonstrated full compliance with that methodology. What our engineer testified to is that based on their analysis, they believe, can you please stop? If we decide, for the reasons Mr. Diaz set forth this evening, that we may wish to come back at some point to amend the approval if granted, that we believe, and that the analysis they've done leads him to comfortably believe, that we will be able to meet that methodology, which does not require on-site detention or infiltration. And therefore, in the circumstances he described, we obviously would have to present whatever was necessary if we were seeking an amended approval. What we did indicate this evening is while we came in with that methodology in response to requests from members of the board and consultants, that we have changed to a different methodology. And that is the peak reduction, and that we will provide whatever additional information is required. What is being proposed, your own engineer has testified, and our experience before this board and other boards bears out that the information that's before the board is more than adequate to allow the board to grant preliminary and final approval. The board continues to have jurisdiction over the application until all of the conditions of approval are granted. And as indicated, one of those conditions, obviously, we're going for an FHA, for a flood hazard approval from DEP. The comments with regard, from an engineer, not an attorney, with regard to what constitutes adequate information before the board in order to justify or entitle us to the grant of approval. Again, whatever the crib notes are, there was a citation to a case called Field versus Franklin. Field versus Franklin is a case from the 80s where someone came in with a PUD for 3,000 units, and their testimony with regard to sewer was, there are three ways we could do it: an easement over adjoining property, on-site package treatment, or tying in to the sewer. That was apparently the sum total of the testimony. There was nothing else to indicate they didn't have an easement over the adjoining property. They didn't give any information about on-site package treatment or whether they could tie into the sewer or whether there was capacity. On that basis, the court said that there was no information for the board to make an assessment. That is not the circumstances here. And your engineer has presented to you through testimony that she feels she does have adequate information to assess the means by which stormwater will be managed. Will it need to have additional adjustments? Possibly. Once they do during the wet season, the testing as to the high water, they will make whatever adjustments are necessary. It is frankly not for me to make an assessment, or the applicant, nor is it for the objector. The board makes the assessment as to whether they believe they have adequate information to carry out their duty. And certainly, at least from the case that was presented by the engineer, this is not that circumstance, and a great deal of time and attention has been given to stormwater and the means by which the stormwater will be addressed. Spare with me a moment. So what is before you this evening is the extra that the board asked for. The curve under curve has been presented because we wanted to indicate that should we come back, we would provide what's necessary and reserve that right. What we're asking you to evaluate this evening is what we have represented is the methodology that we will be proposing. With regard to the groundwater, so far there is, we have indicated that based on testing that our engineers firm undertook, they have information, the most recent information as to groundwater is based upon what they physically observed in the site, on the site. The other information that's being relied upon is information that is not there for the purpose of establishing groundwater, but is a monitoring well with regard to the Roche, the contamination that is the obligation of Roche. So we are relying on what we believe to be accurate information, which allows the engineers to make informed engineering judgments, and we anticipate they will be borne out, just as the characterization of the soils, which were anticipated and designated, and then the testing bore those out because engineers make judgments based on their experience. The board is aware that the contamination on site continues to be the responsibility of Roche. Your checklist does not require that we provide any of the information with regard to the status of the remediation on site. However, as is the board's right and their engineer, when they asked that we provide information, that information was provided, and to date, although the objector likes to make accusations about the applicant withholding information or failing to provide information, we have never been advised by the board's engineer that the information that was requested and provided is other than adequate and that it has addressed the request. So there has not been any holding back or withholding of information. To our knowledge, the objector's consultant is not a licensed site remediation professional. We don't know. He's never testified that they've had any communication with Roche with regard to the status of the groundwater. And while they have repeatedly accused us of withholding or failing to provide information, they have also repeatedly asserted that all the necessary information is a matter of public record and available to the public. So again, I think this is just another attempt to sort of smear the applicant and maybe create something for their ongoing litigation. We believe that our information with regard to the flood hazard is correct, contrary to initial assertions that we were not using the existing lines, but rather relying on a proposed modification. That is not the case, and that has been testified to as well. In sum, we concur with your engineer that the information that has been provided to date is more than adequate to allow the board to grant the relief that we are seeking, which is simply preliminary and final site plan approval with no other relief required. I believe, and the testimony supports that belief, that we will satisfy all of the requisite standards, both from the DEP and the local ordinances, that the board, the information provided by your engineer is in keeping with this board's practice for our applications in the past and others, and that the information that's before the board satisfies our obligation under the municipal land use law for the information the board should have in order to make a decision with regard to the preliminary and final site plan, subject to conditions which the board in its discretion and under its authority may impose. So given that and the testimony that supports my summation, I would ask that the board act favorably upon the application.
Thank you, Ms. Concha. Thank you, Ms. Concha. We're going to open up to comments from the board, and I'm going to go first. This has been going on for a while.
Good, Billy King.
I usually go last, but first of all, I want to thank the applicant and their counsel and their experts. A lot of hard work and very good presentation. I failed to thank my expert, Dipti, over there. We couldn't do this without you. And everything you say is gospel to me. Okay? I want to thank the objector for a enthusiastic and well thought out presentation. And I want to thank, most of all, I want to thank my board. This is a board of volunteers. We have had several special meetings, people taken away from their families. We had 6 meetings in 7 weeks through the summer when we're supposed to have 2. Most of those meetings was for this. And I just want to thank you guys for your dedication. Regarding the project, I think you guys have made a great presentation and you've given us evidence, and I have confidence in Dipti and I have confidence in Dave that when those crucial times come up in the field, they'll fix it so it works right. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Sir?
Thank you.
You go second.
No, that's all right. Because of the protracted length of this hearing over many, let's say several months and a long time, appropriately, we concentrated on stormwater, but Ms. Concha's summations bring us back to the very beginning. This is a site plan that is
compliant with the redevelopment plan. It's an attractive building. It's going to bring the proposed occupant to town. That's a welcome addition to our community, something that fits into the overall site of an innovation center, biotech type company, which we welcome here in Nutley, and further brings that site to more prominence statewide. As far as the stormwater is concerned, I think the applicant has now gone beyond what was required, something we definitely pushed for. And I think he should be congratulated for that. That's being a good neighbor. And we appreciate that. He's also, in addition, has decreased the impervious coverage in addition to the detention that's proposed tonight. So I am fully supportive of this application. I'm sure Mr. Del Tufo will have a bunch to add to the resolution, but he's going last. That's good. But I fully support this, and I concur with the chairman on the dedication of this board, our experts, and all those who testified during this hearing.
Thank you. Ms. Tangor?
Yes, I would like to add my congratulations to the applicant and reiterate the thanks to all of the hard work put in by the board. I have full confidence in the expert testimony of both the applicant and our own experts, and I am very confident that this is completely compliant with our redevelopment plan, and I have absolutely no problem voting in the affirmative for this application. Ms. Goncher, that was an incredible summation, and I thank you for that as well.
Thank you, Ms. Tangor. Mr. Malfitano?
Not to keep repeating the accolades, because everyone in the room does deserve them. I hope that the applicant does continue in the same direction that we heard tonight with their current set of plans, their current stormwater proposal, what's been echoed a couple of times tonight, that there's a chance to reserve the right to come back before this board and maybe change things. I hope that's not the case. I hope we're going to continue, because this board is proud of what they've done already. The fact that you might come back and say otherwise, what we've heard testimony tonight, would really be disheartening. That's the only downside to what I've heard in your summation, Ms. Goncher. But we can hold our heads proudly high, because the board's objective is to take an application and try to make it better. I think that we achieved that. Not every application gives us that opportunity, but I think we went ahead and created, along with the professionals, our consultants, created something better. And that's, I think, what we were hoping to accomplish. But thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Cantella?
Yes, I just want to thank you guys for looking into the stormwater on both sides to give us a great idea of what's going on. Thank you very much.
Mr. Romachevsky?
Hi, being fairly new to the board, this was actually a very exciting application to work through. I take my role very, very seriously, and as you know, my concern was the stormwater issue, and I feel I have my utmost confidence in Dipti and Dave. I've known them both for a long time, and there's nobody better. So I know they'll watch out for the town to make sure everything's done the way it should be. I'm grateful to Prism for listening to what we had to say. I'm still a little confused as to what the objector's goal was, but when you were saying the health, welfare, and safety of the residents, you didn't say what the issue was. So that's just a lot to listen to without knowing what you were trying to say, but whatever. I I fully endorse the application, and I have been very happy with what On3 has done to date. And I think that if they continue on the path that they're on, we're going to have, like you said, a showcase within the state of New Jersey and the surrounding towns. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Commissioner Scarpelli summed up my feelings pretty well tonight. As far as the objectors, we appreciate your comments and we understand how you feel about it. We also appreciate the passion with which you presented it tonight. We thank you for that. But on balance, I think the project that's been presented, there's been a lot of alternatives in the past that weren't near as well good. I think this will serve the community well, and we wish you well in completing the project.
Mr. Del Tufo.
Just briefly,
Mike.
Our threshold issue here is, are we making things worse for the people downstream, not just the lumberyard, but everybody downstream? And, we're comforted that the stormwater design was modified to include a detention system. You have doubts that it's going to function properly. I can appreciate that. That'll come out. That'll come out in the final construction. But I'm comfortable that at least I could go to bed tonight and say the proposal, should it get approved tonight, is not going to make things worse downstream. I'm not going to go as far as saying it's going to improve things, but it's not going to make things worse for our neighbors and friends downstream. We all have friends who live on Lake Street in the area, and certainly the lumberyard owners are legacy residents of Nutley, and we respect their rights. But I also have to say that for an application that doesn't need any variances, we beat this to death. I mean, there's probably some record here in that, the testimony that was given and the amount of meetings we had for an as of right application was pretty extreme. And I appreciate all the hard effort that the applicant did. You guys did a great job. And, you're not fly-by-night developers. You're serious people trying to, build a good project, which overall we think will improve the Nutley and the environs. So, let's see what happens. Let's bring it to a vote and see what happens, and we'll move forward.
Get it?
Yep.
Good job, sir. Yep. Good job, sir. That being said, I would entertain a motion. Jerry?
Coincidentally, I would like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the application. I have several conditions I'd like to read off and a whole bunch of others that I listed. Curiously, my conditions are almost in the exact same order as Ms. Goncher's. So we must have been keeping notes at the same meeting. So what I've done over the course of the meetings was whenever we agreed on a condition, I wrote it down, and there's 30 of them. So I'm gonna read them. Some of them may have been done already. I think you've satisfied many of them, and you've testified that you have satisfied many of them already. But for completeness, I'm gonna put them down, and then when we find the final, draft the final resolution, Mr. Kazero determined, what's pertinent and what should be left in there. So from the July 30th meeting, Prism will handle the documentation to merge all the lots. The proposed Innovation Center entrance off of Kingsland Street will be modified as per Nutley Fire Department comments. A sidewalk will be included on the east curb of the entrance off of Kingsland Street. The proposed parking plan will include one more ADA parking space. The existing invasive trees will be removed from the site as part of the proposed landscape plan. Proposed trees will have a minimum of a 4-inch caliper. Any regular scheduled generator operation will be performed during daytime hours. Prism will coordinate changing the easements for all relocations of sanitary lines and storm lines. Regarding any relocated or new sanitary line, the design will provide a manhole at every horizontal change in direction of the line. Prism will include current and proposed floodway boundaries on existing and proposed site plans. Prism will provide floodplain elevations on the design drawings. If I say anything that you really have a problem, let's just scream it out and we'll talk about it. Prism will include the existing swale on their design drawings and all new stormwater piping. This is still from that July meeting. All requisite government agency approvals will be received prior to construction. Prism will handle the application for any treatment works approval permit with the DEP if one is required. And at that time, no industrial discharge is anticipated. Prism will include in their design appropriate inlets and associate modifications to the stormwater drainage at the proposed Windsor Place dead end. At the time of this meeting, Prism had yet to decide the proposed source of domestic water. Nutley municipality prefers you to use the Nutley water, but I think subsequently you're going to use your own, take water off your site and meter it.
Yes, it is water provided by the domestic water is provided by our on-site water, and then we do go to the Nutley sewer system. It is metered and then onto Passaic Valley.
I think later I even correct. Okay. From our August 6th meeting, Prism will evaluate options to screen the rooftop vent shafts from view. Prism agrees to revisit any odor complaints resulting from the tenant operation and avoid any adverse influence as per Nutley performance standards in the redevelopment plan. Prism will arrange for the Stonefeld traffic report to be updated to include the pre-K school on the corner of Bloomfield Avenue and Kingsland Street. We forgot a lot of these. It's been so long. Add to the on the August 10th meeting. On the demolition plans, you'll specify the difference regarding existing utilities, meaning abandoned in place.
Commissioner, can I stop you there for 1 second? Going back to the Stonefield report, I just want to be clear that I believe that the testimony at the time of our traffic engineer was that there was an accommodation made for a certain traffic count from there, that this, including them in the final report, is not another review of that report relative to traffic mitigation measures, but just for the record to keep it, an actual count within the report itself.
Okay. Regarding the demolition plans, specify on the plans regarding existing utilities to be abandoned in place, removed, or relocated and replaced, etc. Evaluate if the sewer line operation was included in the three-party settlement agreement. If not, resolve its operation as to billing. And from the September 3rd meeting, a licensed landscape architect will sign off on the proposed landscape plan. The proposed signage and lighting plans will be consistent with the overarching uniform plan for the entire campus. Subsequently, you guys testified to that. The stormwater management design will accommodate any off-site drainage that is contributing to the innovation site stormwater, including the 3 benches culvert, and that's all subsumed in your new design.
I'm going to stop you there again. I want to be certain that I believe that the requirement of the board engineer was that it's only the conveyance system from Windsor to ensure that it continues to convey through the property properly, but that we're not accounting for it within our stormwater measurements or volume counts, because that's not our obligation. It's there today. It comes through the site. Our obligation is to make certain that it continues to come through the site in an appropriate manner through a rerouting of that storm sewer that's been put on the plans. But it's not, I just want to be certain that what you're asking for doesn't get misinterpreted. It's not a requirement for our stormwater system to account for the volumes coming from the homes on Windsor Street through the Windsor sewer itself.
Okay.
That's fine.
We're good. We're good. Let me finish. Let me go through. It's a general comment. All Pannoni and Ricky comments to be resolved to the satisfaction of the township engineer. Garbage and recycling will be collected privately. The existing Windsor Place utilities will be removed and rerouted as necessary with the approval of the township engineer. Where we discussed domestic water. And the proposed grades will be pitched away from adjacent property owners. Then I have a list of 100 resolution compliance items that I'm not going to read. We'll provide them to you. In Collier's August 25th letter and September 5th letter, and Pannoni's October 27th letter, there's reference to comments that will be resolved via resolution compliance, including the 10 relative to the new stormwater proposal that Pannoni has. So I went through every letter, and whenever you indicated resolution compliance, I listed it. And what I provided was a list of the comments, who provided the comment, the category, the page, the question, the answer, and the general topic. And they range from, curb ramp elevation, text conflicts, ADA compliance, sanitary manhole, limits of disturbance. But wherever it was indicated that this will be addressed under resolution compliance, I listed it. So ironically, there's literally 100 of those.
I believe that to the extent that the 1027 letter is cumulative, that one may be controlling, because that one indicates, I don't think that other than the new comments that you mentioned, that should indicate whether we've satisfied the comment that we carried forward.
Some may have.
Okay.
We do a lot for this place. I wasn't going to go back and review and make sure you.
We're hoping we're down.
No, I'm listing it, and
Jared, excuse me, the applicant stipulated this evening that they would comply with all of the comments of the 1027 letter from Pannoni. And I'm assuming that some of the stuff from the 725 letter is redundant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that should, like you said, that should pretty much encompass all of that. Thank you, Jared.
That's it.
Before you conclude your discussion,
Mr. Kazira,
I will add the board's usual terms and conditions that we put in all resolutions with respect to site plan approval to this approval as well, and reconcile them with Jerry's conditions and put them in accordingly.
We have a second.
we have a second.
Ms. Sanseri, please.
Ms. Sanseri, please call the roll.
Yes.
Mr. Del Tufo?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Tambora? Ms. Tambora? Yes. From Justy?
Yes.
Commissioner Scarpelli? Commissioner Scarpelli?
Yes.
Canella?
Yes.
Mr. Arcudi?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job. Good job, board. Good job, board.
Good job, boy. Excuse me, Ms. Concher? Jean, 1 second. Ms. Concher? Excuse me. Now that we have an approval for our innovation center, are we going to withdraw the warehouse application?
So at the next,
Next meeting when we have the resolution. When we have the resolution. Got it. It will probably be next Thursday. Is that right?
We're hoping.
He's got nothing to do.
Wait, next
Thursday.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no, but usually they're
The
Wednesday.
election's on Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay.
Where's my minutes?
Where's my minutes?